Out of the gates and ready to go. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow underway on this Tuesday edition, live from 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. John McClain is coming up later in today's show. Plenty of NFL headlines despite the dead period of news and notes. Plenty of rumors out there about where certain veterans could end up. John's got the latest coming up in about an hour and a half from right now. Former UFC light heavyweight champion and UFC Hall of Famer Tito Ortiz is on the show in hour number 2 as well. Plus, Curt Schilling joins us in hour 3. Chad, good afternoon.
Hutton, let me be the first to welcome you back.
Good to be back.
After a couple of well-deserved days off, very well-deserved vacation. Thrilled to have you back in that chair, sitting next to me, where you belong.
Went with the parents to the Smokies, Smoky Mountains.
The most visited national park in America, the Great Smoky Mountain National Park.
I believe it based on the traffic.
Yeah. It's never a dull time there. It's good to have you back.
Great to be back with you, and great to be back with the crew as well here with OutKick. Plenty to dive into from the weekend and everything that Chad and I must catch up on. The headlines right now in sports are kind of laughable in many ways. There are 4 teams right now, Chad, in the NFL who can be forced to host Hard Knocks for training camp. This has been known. The rules have been out there. There are 4 teams that can be told. It's not an option. You will be having HBO and Hard Knocks, and just deal with it. One of them happens to be with Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. And this idea that the Jets are preparing for Hard Knocks even though they haven't been told, they should have been preparing for Hard Knocks the minute that Aaron Rodgers came out of the darkness retreat cave and said, I was 90% retired, and now all I see is gangrene. All I see is I see myself as a Jet. Miraculously, just somehow that happened, that the darkness retreat let him see the light, that he was going to be a Jet. And that was the one team that was being reported as negotiating with Green Bay at the same time. It's just, it's incredible how that happened.
Shocking coincidence.
It really is. They're going to be on Hard Knocks. I don't know why this whole thing of the discussion of will the Jets be on Hard Knocks or not is the top storyline in sports today.
So here are the criteria that where you're forced to be on it. You can't have a new head coach, check, for the Jets. Can't have made the playoffs the last 2 years, check, again for the Jets. Can't have appeared on Hard Knocks as the subject of the show in the last 10 years, check, again. This all leads to JETS, Jets.
Rex Ryan was the last time
Give
they were
America what they want and stop this messing around with it. We want to see Aaron Rodgers discussing the benefits of psychedelics with Sauce Gardner. We want to watch this television. This is the team that people care about that's been in the national spotlight throughout the offseason. Stop messing around with it. Let's get the Jets on there. And I don't want to hear the Jets not wanting to be on Hard Knocks. They get final edit. These teams get to dictate what's on the show and what's not.
Woody Johnson has wanted to be on it recently. And, he was recently asked about it, the owner of the Jets. And he's like, I'll have to survey and figure it out. He was kind of towing the line. Well, they're going to be on it, and he's wanted this in the past. Now he's got Aaron Rodgers. He wants the Jets.
Yeah, and he should want the Jets to be on it. And the Jets, everyone in the Jets should want the Jets to be on it. Coaches and players and GMs, they get a little bit too worked up about this. You get final edit. You get final cut on what's on the show. Here's the other thing, too. As the league that is taking so much money in media rights, that is making hand over fist, the NFL may end up being the one professional sport that doesn't have to rely on Saudi money when all is said and done. They make their money the old-fashioned way, on their own. They don't need the private investment fund to give them money to get everyone rich. They're all rich.
They'll take it
to begin with. They'll eventually take it. But for right now, they don't have to take it. So when you agree to a television contract, and part of the deal is, hey, people are interested in your product, we want to present it to them in an entertaining fashion that'll keep people interested, shut up and take the money and allow the cameras in your facility. I do not want to hear about your lack of a desire to be on Hard Knocks when this is what the football fan in America wants. Shut up and take the money. Your owners are doing it. It's part of the media deal. In fact, you don't have to like it. They can come in and say, you're the team this year. So let's go ahead and get to it and stop the middlemaning of this thing where, well, I don't know that if we want to, we've got real state secrets out there and we don't want that type of distraction in training camp. Shut up. You've taken the money already. It's what we want to see. Let's get to it. This is the year where Hard Knocks can truly be compelling again. They've had some decent seasons recently, and it's a show that I'll always watch no matter what, but this is one that I think could expand that audience of this show because of the interest in Aaron Rodgers with the Jets.
The most intriguing aspect of Hard Knocks recently has been the in-season versions of it. 2 years ago, the Indianapolis Colts, where if they win in Jacksonville, they get in, and you have the backstory of everything that took place with Frank Reich, Carson Wentz, and his reaction on the field, Jonathan Taylor, and he had the opposite reaction of Wentz walking off the field in Jacksonville, Irsay behind the scenes, all of it. And this past year, Arizona. And we don't know the in-season version of this yet, but we do know the Jets can have their hand forced. And maybe there's a negotiation going on about trying to do the in-season, so they don't want to force them to do something that they don't want during the preseason. The storylines are there, though. By the way, Chicago is the other one that is like, it's a distant second, but it's the second best option for HBO and Hard Knocks if they were to do this.
Yeah, I just, I don't.
It's going to be New York.
I don't expect teams to do backflips. Hey, really petition for the cameras to be there and all of that. But just, I don't want to read reports about you not wanting it. I mean, it's good for your game. Hard Knocks has only helped interest the NFL
if you don't
over
want
the years.
It, just win. Like if you make the postseason, you don't have to be forced to do it.
Also, take it as a compliment. I mean, if you're Woody Johnson, the owner of the Jets, this is a good thing that people around the league are talking about you and want to focus on your team in the preseason. It's not a bad thing.
I think about the Jets on Hard Knocks.
Don't run from the interest.
And
embrace
I think about
it.
Rex Ryan and the.
Let's go get a.
Do this and that, and no, let's go get a GD snack.
GD snack. That is probably the most famous. I'm trying to think of famous Hard Knocks moments. That's right up there.
It's that and like Vince Wilfork for me.
Vince Wilfork in the crazy outfit.
Yeah.
I think about remember Antonio Brown when he burned his feet. Remember he had the foot problem,
and then he ends up with the Raiders.
Yeah, and he had to go. Yeah,
that was the whole thing.
Part of it.
Yeah,
there was a lot of intrigue in that one with Gruden.
You're right.
And how he's going to handle it with Antonio Brown.
More coming up with Derek Carr on speaking of the Raiders. He's speaking on what happened last year to some reporters with a newspaper out in Vegas. We'll hit on that with McClain later. Just while we're talking Jets, Dalvin Cook is keeping his name in the headlines through a former teammate of his in Tyler Conklin, who is saying, hey, he would fit in perfectly here. Yes, there's room in the running back room with the Jets for Dalvin Cook. Cook has mentioned the Jets, and really any team that's linked to him, he's the one that's mentioning this, trying to keep his name out there during this period where he wants to lock in and go into camp and prove that he's worth the money that he turned down or asked to be released, asked for a change of scenery based on whatever Minnesota offered him in a pay cut. He was going to count $14 million against the cap. He's due a little over $10 million, or was, in Minnesota this year, and he's trying to get the same amount of money on the free agent market, and it's just not there for the running backs right now. Even a guy like Cook, who has a lot left, they have a good running back core already in New York with Rodgers manning the ship of the offense. I don't know if there's anything to this or not because the Jets haven't said anything. The Dolphins, Cook would walk to Miami to go back home and play for the Miami Dolphins. There's nothing there either, at least currently. It's a bad time to try to keep your name in the headlines because a lot of the guys in the front office, they're not making phone calls. They're putting their phone away because they're, oceanside or they're poolside right now before the long stretch begins of training camp all the way through January. I don't know where he ends up. I'm saying simply, I don't necessarily buy the Jets headlines, just like I don't buy any headlines with Cook involved because no team is being reported from these insiders. It's just Dalvin Cook putting his name out there. He's doing a good job of that, but he's not going to get anywhere near the money that I guess he thought he would upon telling the Vikings to, screw off. I'm going to get more money on the open market. Not the case.
So everything in the NFL now is its own separate season, the SZN, as the kids use these days. You got preseason, you've got camp season, you've got regular season, you got playoff season, you've got combine season, you've got draft season. The era that we're in right now in the dog days of summer, to me, is we're not in a hurry season. And that's both teams and players that are available for teams. DeAndre Hopkins, not in a big hurry. I don't think teams are in a huge hurry to get a decision from him. Dalvin Cook, I think the same thing. No one's in that big of a hurry with these guys. You get these veteran guys that probably don't need an entire training camp, depending on where they go and how different the system is. They don't want to be a part of an entire training camp because they've played long enough and they've excelled long enough where they don't have to be there the entire time. I think you just get in a situation where it's fun for us to speculate and talk about possible landing spots.
I think Cook wants to be in.
But we're in a situation where neither side is in a big rush to get something done.
No, I think Cook wants to be in. He wants a landing spot. He's not looking to wait around. That's why he continues to he's throwing out team names.
And that's the flip side of it.
Yeah.
I think it's on both sides. I think with Hopkins, you've got, he's not in a big hurry, but I think it's one or the other. Either the team's not, the player's not. Right now with Dalvin Cook, it's teams, plural, aren't in a big rush, and that's a lot to do with the running back market and the value of the running back today. But then, in some cases, it's both. You just don't see a big rush or any urgency to get something done.
And no urgency from the Jets. They've got Breece Hall coming back off of injury, who was very good prior to his injury last year as a rookie. And then the team he wants to play for in Miami, they have Raheem Mostert. They have Jeff Wilson. They've drafted A-Chain from Texas A&M. I mean, they have a stable of backs that we're seeing from Miami, and they're in no rush either unless there's an injury. The best case scenario for Dalvin Cook is an injury from one of the top backs across the league. And then a team that's built around the run game, or at least 50-50, will look his way and try to make some room on the salary cap. Chad, are you you came in earlier today a bit stressed based on the last couple of days of swim lessons. I'm curious what has happened and what you're pondering now based on the text messages that are blowing up your phone about tomorrow's swim lesson for Lucy.
So, Matt McCloy, Matty Ice, a man of many names, father of dragons. He's like a Game of Thrones character. He's got so many nicknames.
Yep.
He's about to post in our YouTube chat this poll question. I'll pose it as a Twitter poll question because I am legitimately going to take the advice of our public seriously on this. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to make the decision solely on this, but I want your advice on this.
It's a third.
From our viewers, from our listeners on our fine radio network, whoever it may be, please chime in on this. Now, if you are a parent, I may take your opinion a little bit more seriously, but I want opinions from everyone. Parent, non-parent, anyone. I want Hutton's opinion on this.
One of my first memories involves this, I believe.
So I'm anxious to hear your memory on it. My youngest daughter, Lucy, is not yet 4 years old. She will turn 4 in August, mid-August. She is in swim lessons this week. Now, she's in the same swim school. It's a group swim school with other kids and parents that my oldest daughter went to. She got about a 9 month to a year head start and got through level 1, eventually got through level 3 of training. We're in level 1 swim school, swim class. It is so frustrating because my child, who's one of the bigger kids in the swim class, even though she's not yet 4, refuses to try a lot of the activities. So the first day, she floated on her stomach fine. She blew bubbles. You know, they get the pool toys out. She was doing some of that.
She aced it.
But the moment that we presented the possibility of floating on her back, flipped out. And I'm not talking like, just I'm not going to do it. Screaming, putting her nails into my back, holding on so tight, like terrified that I was going to put her on her back in the water. And I'm trying to explain to her calmly that, Lucy, I'm not going to let you go. I'm not going to let you go into the water. I'm right here holding you just like up here. Will not hear it. The instructor comes over, tries to take her. She is screaming. I mean, the entire class can hear it. wants to go back to me the whole time.
So much so that you don't want to go back there.
Screaming so
Right?
much. That was day one. We got through the hour-long class. I said, all right, we'll do our best. Talked it up the whole night, the whole next morning. Ready to go today. Good attitude going in. Get through about 15 minutes. Do a couple new things. Gets to that other part of it. Will not do it. Will not do it. And I finally said, Lucy, we're leaving. I can't do this because she's screaming. It's distracting everyone else in the class. I tell the teacher, and I'm frustrated. She doesn't say anything. It's a fill-in teacher, younger. I said, I'm just going to leave. And she just kind of, oh, okay. Didn't really want me to. But I said, I can't deal with this. I'm just going to leave.
With her there? Or?
I pick her up. Yeah, I can't leave her in the pool. It's got to be a parent in the pool with the kid.
Okay.
So 30 minutes in, 20 minutes left in the class, I pick her up and we go home. And I am just chastising my 3-year-old the whole way home. Like, this is embarrassing. You're the biggest kid in the pool. Why can't you do this? So my question to everyone is this. Do I bring her back tomorrow?
You do.
The head of the swim class is saying you should come back tomorrow. I am refusing, and part of this is selfish, but I can't go and her not try anything. She won't even try. If she tried it and got too scared, would be one thing. She will not try the drills.
You can
and
vote.
I am voting not to bring her back.
I'm voting to bring her back, and I can help you out with this throughout the show based on personal experience. I don't remember much before like 4 or 5 years old. I remember my
Being
swim
terrified?
lessons. Yes.
Okay.
Details. Plus, KG, Kevin Garnett, has advice for Ja Morant. That's next on Hot Mic.
I got to ask, DJ, Dustin Johnson, feels like to me that a guy that's not serious enough to go out and win on the last couple days. It's how he feels to me. I'm not saying I'm right, but, Spieth feels to me like a guy that's going to crap the bed late.
Yeah, he's won the U.S. Open and he's won the Masters, so that kind of crap to the bed that kind of goes out the window.
Not really. Okay. Well, a couple of years ago, who cares? This is now. This is after he just signed a massive deal. We've seen it in every single sport. Guys sign a massive deal and they don't play nearly as well.
Yeah,
Johnson,
it really is affecting.
Just what I've seen.
Well, it's really affecting Brooks Koepka.
I'm not saying everybody.
Good point.
I said Jesus Christ. God damn. I said we've seen it before. I didn't say every freaking guy. What's wrong? Are we going to have a conversation or are you just going to be an idiot? Which one are you going to be?
No, we're having a conversation.
I'll go either way. I'll go any way you want to go. You want to be an idiot? I can be an idiot. You want to be a human being? We can have a conversation. Which would you like to do?
Well, Dan, I just like to sometimes set the record straight that you can't say when guys get the big money, they don't play well.
Hold on. Then set it straight to me. Set it straight to me what I just said. In some sports, when guys get big money, they don't play well. Some guys, some sports. So set that straight to me.
Give me an example, Dan.
Oh, I'll give you a ton of examples. Every NBA guy, Duncan Robinson was in the last year of his contract. All of a sudden, he played great, got paid $92 million. Hadn't played worth a damn. Julius Randle played great last year of contract. Now he's in another one. Hadn't played great. Different guys do different things. Jalen Brunson gets a big contract, plays great. There's different examples. All I simply said was that Dustin Johnson hasn't, in my opinion, my feel for it. I don't give a shit what he did 10 years ago or 5 years ago. I'm talking about now. All you got to do is respond to that and say, hey, I'm wrong.
You're wrong. Damn. So here's the deal with the LIV guys. Here's the deal with the LIV guys, which is really tricky. This is really, really tricky. So since Dustin Johnson went to LIV, he's been LIV's best player. Now, you could say that is what it is. You could say,
has he not?
I'm sorry?
Koepka has been.
No. I mean, on the LIV tour, Dan.
Oh.
I'm not so that's kind of my point. Just give me 20 seconds to explain here. So Dustin Johnson got the big bag. He went to LIV. On the LIV tour, when they play every 2-3 weeks, Dustin Johnson's been their best player. Dustin Johnson has dominated the LIV tour. Now, He's had a couple chances when he's come to the majors where Koepka has obviously really shined second at the Masters and then wins the PGA Championship. DJ in those remote spots, the couple majors he's played, has not played particularly well. But Dustin Johnson's golf game, which is my job to handicap on who's going to play well, Dustin Johnson's playing good golf. Dustin Johnson's arguably the best live golfer as far as if you just take strokes gained on the live tour. So every player in golf is choked. The guy with the most second place finishes at major championships is Jack Nicklaus.
Glad you're back with us. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow rolls on across the OutKick Network. 6th and Peabody, our location with EHA Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. You can join us in the chat on YouTube. Hope you'll subscribe to the OutKick channel while you're there. Just search out OutKick, hit that subscribe button, thumbs up, and much more. You can also join Chad in the poll question that he's thrown out about what to do just based on advice. Maybe you can relate to the parenting aspect of this. I can relate to the kid aspect of this, swim lessons and being terrified and not wanting to go back, refusing to go into the pool. Chad, I was forced. I can relate to Lucy here. Not the same like on like floating on my back, just in the deep end, just trying to swim. And for whatever reason, it was like 3, 4, 4.5. Did not want to do it. And
by the way, this was the first thing that she freaked out over.
Okay.
Was floating on her back away from the side of the pool, not holding on to the side of the pool.
It's I think it's more, you know how you don't like the texture of a food or something?
Yeah.
I think it's more just like the feeling of, I don't know, you feel out of sorts a bit at first because you're not used to it.
And you should feel that way. Like there should be some natural fear around water.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to swim. That's a normal human response.
I think you've got to take her back and see how she reacts again.
Is there shame, though, when I bring her back after leaving 30 minutes into lesson number 2?
No.
Next day.
In fact, I would come up to you if I didn't know you as a parent and thank you for that, because you're actually helping the other kids and parents get through whatever emotional state they're in, too. I had to go back, and I was thrown into the deep end, basically, the day after I freaked out as a kid. And I remember this. I was terrified. And then afterwards, it was like, oh, that wasn't that bad. Different era now where, I mean, my parents did not have to be present for these swim lessons.
Yeah, I don't know that I knew.
They definitely didn't have to be in the pool.
I got to remind myself this because I've been around water most of my life and can swim like a fish and no problems, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I learned how to swim until I was 6 or 7, because my grandparents got a pool put in behind their house at that time. My grandparents lived next door to me growing up. So I started swimming then. I remember like home videos of me doggy paddling at 7 years old. And my daughter's 3 and she's in swim lessons. So
it's going to make it way easier.
I have to remember that, but man, is this not a tough thing for me because I can't stand the lack of trust of just not understanding. Like I'm holding you. Like you have to calm down.
But it's
I've
more
got
than
a hold of you.
It's the freaking out part. That's the craziness of it.
Well, maybe you'll convince me. We've got time. Everyone's got time to vote on this and convince me otherwise.
I'm not trying to convince one way or the other.
As of right now, I don't plan on going back. But maybe I'll be convinced otherwise.
Ja Morant can be back in the NBA after 25 games. 25-game suspension to begin the regular season. I've said for a couple of weeks that the suspension began whenever we saw NBA Commissioner Adam Silver announce this, because he's got to follow the guidelines that are in place for up to 6.5 months based on the timetable of all of this. And I'm not sure he can, because he couldn't do it for 2 months the last time he came back from suspension, which was 8 games at the time. We're not the only ones. Ja Morant, according to reports, people within his inner circle are saying that the media and the NBA is out to get them and out to get Ja based on the suspension, which is far-fetched at best based on the suspension length and the fact that they're not even pointing to every single incident that we've seen over the last 12 to 15 months here. I've said, and Chad, I know you've said this as well. It's not just the media; it's the NBA vets, it's the current players in the league that are not pushing back on this because they see the troubling aspects and the recurring issues that have taken place here on the path that he's on. Kevin Garnett is the most recent one. He joined. He was with Tony Allen, former Grizzlies player, on KG Certified, where he just straight up says you do not get to pick and choose when you want to be a professional young fella. This is Garnett talking about Ja Morant. He's got to get the right people around him. Tony Allen is chiming in on this. I know that sounds cliche, but more so than anything, you need some cats around you that's going to let you know when you're wrong and when you're bogus. And Garnett added, you've got to do better. You've got to put yourself around better to do better. And I'm not certain that he knows the crew around him is affecting certain aspects of where he is right now, which is suspended for 25 games, the second suspension of his young NBA career. But Chad, everyone has tried to reach out. When I say everyone, I'm using that, tongue in cheek, but it's a lot of the well-known veterans across the league have said they're here if he wants to chat. Some have said they've reached out but haven't heard back. Not even NBA veterans, but Pac-Man Jones has reached out but has not heard back from Ja Morant. And he's not obligated to return a phone call or to take advice from people that have also screwed up. But at some point, you've got to hear the advice that is echoing and the reverb from the NBA and everyone involved here. And I'm not sure he does. We'll find out. Because he's now released two different statements. The first one apparently written by ChatGPT. If you want to Google the apology, it could have been you insert company name here. You wouldn't really know if he was an NBA player or not based on the apology. The more recent one, while a bit lengthier, does specifically, follow the tune of whatever song that Adam Silver was trying to write in the suspension. But it's no longer about words, it's about actions. And in what Kevin Garnett is saying and what Tony Allen is saying, they're talking about actions as well. And it's not just the actions of Ja Morant, it's the actions of those around him that are bringing him down, even though I understand from Ja's perspective, the same people that are being discussed here by Tony Allen are the same group that helped him get to where he is. And now they're being ridiculed as the group that's bringing him down. But it's evident they are, Chad.
Yeah, it's very easy to see the problem here. I don't think we've had a hard time on this show at all of identifying the problem. A big part of the problem is both the friends in the company that Ja Morant keeps and his family. But keep in mind, his mother and his father have both been pieces in really bad stories surrounding Ja Morant. And they've been a contributing factor to this. So it's easier said than done. I think it's easy for Kevin Garnett to identify this problem, or Tony Allen, or anyone else. Easy for us to identify the problem. I am somewhat sympathetic to someone who maybe only knows these friends and clearly only knows this family and his parents involved, to say, hey, ditch them. Stop communicating with them. Get them out of your life. It's what he needs to do. It's what would be best for him as an individual. I'm not saying forever, but especially for right now, until he can make better decisions. He needs better people around him that can help him make better decisions until he's on firm footing, and I'm talking about Ja Morant, to be able to make those good decisions for himself. So it's easy for us to say that. I do think it is difficult for one to just say, hey, you're no longer my friend because X, and Y have happened when you've been around me and you were a big part of that, and I can't have that anymore. So long. See you later. You're not in my crew anymore. That's difficult for someone to do.
Well, let's also point out, like, the most recent issue that Silver has had is this Instagram Live video. The guy that was on Instagram Live is filming and actually turns back to Ja and notices he's flashing a weapon and then immediately takes the camera away. So it's not all about the crew around him.
Yeah, that guy was actually being smarter than Morant.
Yeah. It was a protection aspect, even though I'm not saying everything's great, but it's also just on Ja. And he's up. It's his decision on who he wants to, hang with, take advice from, or not take advice from, take money from, not take money from, pay, not pay. Who cares? It's on Ja Morant now, Chad. But it's also on Silver to react based on whatever happens within these next 6 months accordingly. Let him back in if everything is laid out properly and he's followed this plan. They clearly want him back in the league. The Grizzlies clearly want him back in the league. As a fan of basketball, I want to watch him play. He's a great player. But it's up to him on if he's going to make it back and be the player that everyone expected him to be prior to all of this crap that went down.
Yeah, and if he distanced himself from some people around him, it would make it easier on him. But I do think that there's some truth in what you're saying about ultimately he could just make the decision not to put himself in bad situations and make horrific decisions.
I mean, if he doesn't pull out the gun
with or without his friends.
His friends on Instagram Live, that's fine. But if he doesn't pull out the gun, then there's no issue. That's the troubling aspect of it. And it happened less than 2 months after the suspension was handed down based on everything that went down in Denver at the strip club.
I'm going to make a bold prediction here. I don't think Ja Morant is ever Ja Morant again as a player. I think we've seen the best from him.
You're saying the superstar aspect.
Yeah, I think he's going to be good. I don't think his career's over. But I think he's going when he comes back, he's not going to be as good, and he's going to be viewed in a different light from here on out. I think the entire complexion of his career, this is not something that launches him to the next level as a player. I think he has plateaued as a player and will only go down from here. He's still going to be good. I'm not saying he's going to be a bad player overnight or anything, but I think we've seen the best from him with his potential.
Well, and you're saying part of the potential is just the marketing angle as well.
Yeah,
like the next level. And it's hard for Nike. It's hard for Power. Like if you're the big sponsors here that we're going to put a ton of money behind them, how do you do that now? We're discussing the NBA and the Grizzlies, but also just the clients involved behind the scenes.
Look, people like a redemption story too, so if he can come back from it and be as good or better, then sponsors will jump back on board.
Yeah.
But he's got to do that. I don't know that he's going to come back better. Maybe he comes back a little bit of the same and maybe worse, probably worse, but I don't think we ever see Ja Morant the way we've seen him before.
Chad, who did we see on ESPN today as we were watching and discussing the show here at 6th and Peabody?
Walking around 6th and Peabody, they've got two of the biggest TVs in all of Nashville. Look up on one of those gigantic TVs, and I see none other than Sage Steele hosting Outside the Lines on ESPN.
It's awkward because according to Brian Friedman, her attorney, she's in a lawsuit right now with the four-letter network over the fact that she believes that she was silenced, she was left off or kept off of certain programs after she joined a program with Jay Cutler back in 2021 where she discussed her vaccination status and the Obama administration. And since then, she's been entangled in drama behind the scenes in Connecticut. But also, we still see her on ESPN programming. But her attorney, Brian Friedman, said that she has recently turned down a $501,000 settlement from ESPN because they are trying to buy her silence on her ability to speak her mind whenever and however she feels necessary. But yet, while this story is out, she's hosting Outside the Lines, and it's got to be a strange dynamic within the hallways there, based on everything. But props to Sage for doing it and turning it. 501 is also interesting. Not 500. 501,000 was the offer, according to Friedman, her attorney, to just end the lawsuit and buy her silence, according to what the attorney is saying.
Well, and I know that I think both her and her attorney have pointed out the hypocrisy of Disney and ESPN doing this, which she's suing them for First Amendment, protection and rights, while simultaneously Disney's fighting her on it, while suing Ron DeSantis in the state of Florida for what they're saying is violating their ability to have their own political opinion and to have their First Amendment rights. So they're fighting each end of this argument with different people at the same time. One other way that Disney and ESPN have tried to fight this is by eliminating any chance that she says she's still being held back with professional opportunity, because she's everywhere on the four-letter network. Every time I turn over there, she's on SportsCenter. She's on Outside the Lines. Ever since she sued them, she got a lot more airtime from that moment on. I have to remind myself at times when I see her, oh, yeah, she's involved in a lawsuit against her own company right now based on what she told Jay Cutler about COVID vaccination mandates. So it's a fascinating story. The fact she's not just going to take the $501,000 and continue on with the lawsuit tells me she's got a case, and she believes she's going to get more, and it's going to hurt Disney and ESPN even more than it does with that $501,000.
Well, not even mentioning the political aspect. Just look inside the walls, the double standard of what certain people say on that network versus what others felt like they couldn't say. That's really, to me, what this comes down to. And there will be those behind the scenes that have never spoken up or that have been silenced that will commend her and thank her for turning down the offer of $500,000. More headlines next on Hot Mic.
What is your primary complaint?
When people pop their knuckles.
Primary complaint is chewing with your mouth open. Yuck.
I would say when you're getting off an airplane and people in the back try and sprint to the front, especially like late at night, like you don't have a connecting flight, just wait like everybody else. I'd say that's fine.
Small portions, big bill. Yeah, if the quality's good, it's okay. But if there's small portions and I got a big fat bill, not a thing,
Sun Country Airlines canceling our flight less than 8 hours before we're supposed to leave.
I've never even heard of Sun Country Airlines in my life.
Velcro.
Velcro? Why? What about it?
The sound.
Oh, like nails on a chalkboard for you.
I'm a kindergarten teacher, and to hear that Velcro.
Time to teach them how to tie their shoes.
When they don't cross the road when no cars are driving.
They're just waiting for the light?
Yeah, like a normal person.
Yeah, you got to break the rules a little bit.
We're right from New York City. We know how to walk.
Really upset. Ben Jones is no longer with the Titans, but more importantly, I'm upset the Titans didn't draft a wide receiver in the top 2 rounds. We need receivers, guys. Come on, tighten up.
So what do you think about Will Levis? Was that a good move or a bad move?
Ooh, that's a tough call. Time will tell. But I think we needed a receiver more.
Smack their gum. Chew with their mouth open and smack their gum.
Okay.
That with chips and everything else, yeah.
Liars.
Liars. Okay. Has anyone lied to you recently?
No.
Have you lied?
Always.
One of the biggest pet peeves is not knowing your manners. Like, not having respect or thank you, sir, ma'am.
My biggest pet peeve is when you don't push your chair in after you leave a table. That's my biggest pet peeve. Really is.
So like when people want to speak to you and they're like you to me, but they start walking out of the other room into different rooms and they keep talking like, I am supposed to understand. I can't hardly understand people when their back is turned to me, when they're not talking right at me. So when you're getting into different rooms and you keep talking like, yeah, blah, 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 it must be my dog talking to me.
There's a crane over every building. There's a truck.
There's a whole something. Yeah. So let's get the streets fixed and get those things done. Time's wasted. Let's go.
A dirty house.
Dirty house. Like, are you a shoes off at the front door kind of guy?
Front, yes, ma'am.
I hate it when centre backs don't bat the odd one. Do you know, when the centre backs go up to try and catch the ball all the time, they should bat the odd one.
Siblings are pet peeves, to be honest with you. Just looking at him, he's a pet peeve. I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I like to get along with others. I kind of leave people in their place. When people don't follow the social construct, it really upsets me. Example, when you stand up on an airplane, right, when it lands, and then try to push past people down the line, you know what orders you're supposed to go in. That's the part of the social contract. When you're grocery shopping and you have your cart and you don't take it back to the cart delivery spot, but you just leave it there beside the parking spot, taking up someone else's spot, violating the social contract. Do what you're supposed to. Yeah, do your civic duty. Follow through with what your parents told you to do.
Tito Ortiz is on today's show. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow rolls on. He'll be joining us in about an hour, just after John McClain joins us with the latest NFL news and notes. Chad, how's the poll results so far through hour one? Is it overwhelming you're taking your daughter back to swim lessons?
I don't have access to it. We're going to get an update at the start of the next hour. Matt's going to send me a screenshot. Early indications are everybody believes I should sack up, as Dan Dockich says, and take her back tomorrow.
Chad will be back. If not, someone can.
I really do have a hard time, though, while everyone else is attempting to do everything that the instructor's doing, when my daughter won't do anything but sit with her hand on the ledge, on the seat, or on the step, where she can be above the water and plays the rubber ducky. Like, what am I teaching her if we sit there for an hour and do that, if that's all she'll do?
What's the ratio of mothers to fathers in the pool?
There are 2 other dads and I think 7 moms.
Those guys are going to, like, shake your hand or give you a fist bump tomorrow. Like, thank you for doing what you did and leaving early.
Well, what really, and maybe we started too late, even though she's not even 4 yet, but there are some little bitty kids in here. And I'm shaming my daughter by saying, look at this little baby. This little baby looks like a pretty little dolphin right now compared to you, trying all the different swim strokes, going under the water, and you won't do anything, and that's not been effective. I know that'll shock people, but that method has not been effective.
Chad, what is Dennis Rodman thinking by saying that Larry Bird could not play in this era, that he would be playing in Europe?
Maybe he was on ayahuasca at the time of this interview?
I think of, if you ask me, could Larry Bird play in this era? Yes. LeBron James confirmed that by comparing Jokic to Larry Bird whenever they bowed out of the NBA playoffs in 4 games based on the way Jokic was shooting the basketball. And not only can Bird play in today's era, guys, some of the top players in the league would be teaming up with him to go win a title. Hello, Kevin Durant. This is dumb. The quote was, if Larry Bird played in this era, I think he'd be in Europe. Today's world, oh, hell no, there's no way. Those are the words of Dennis Rodman.
This is pure insanity. Larry Bird played and dominated in an era with Magic Johnson and Dr. J, Julius Erving, who everyone agrees was ahead of his time, Julius Erving, and could play in any era.
And
go back and look at playoff series with Larry Bird versus Julius Erving.
And the stories
Sixers
of
and Celtics
Bird
back in the day.
Talking trash or playing with his left hand or whatever, he could absolutely do it.
Of course. And Larry Bird is also 6'8". It's not like he's he's not the fastest, but you mentioned it. There's a guy by the name of Joker who's pretty good, who's also not the fastest, but knows every part of the game and has a basketball IQ that's through the roof, just like Larry Bird. Well, it's crazy.
The other thing, too, I think of Bird, and I think of, did you ever watch the video that he did on, like, how to, like, it was like the fundamentals of basketball with him and Red Auerbach. And Red Auerbach wants him to miss a shot and show everyone watching how not to shoot the basketball.
And he can't do it.
and he does it the way that you're not supposed to, and he still makes it from, it's like a three-pointer. And he's like, of course, I'm going to make this shot regardless, no matter how I'm going to shoot it. Yes, he could play in today's era.
Larry Bird.
He would not be playing in Europe.
In the 80s, which was a good era of NBA basketball, right? The 70s was probably the low point of the NBA. The 80s was on the rise into the 90s, which was the Renaissance era of NBA basketball. But he played 80s into the 90s. 3-time NBA champion, 2-time NBA Finals MVP, 3-time NBA MVP, 12-time All-Star, 9-time All-NBA first team as a player. And Dennis Rodman, who clearly was high when he said this, believes this man would be playing
he was something.
in Serbia right now and not in the NBA if he came along today. And by the way, I was an inch off. He's 6'9", Larry Bird.
He was taller, I'm not sure.
Yeah, not 6'8". I'm sorry, Larry. He was a 6'9" shooter. His game would translate.
Chad, I saw a headline this morning. Brittany Griner calls airport incident rock bottom. I saw this and I'm thinking, she's saying this is rock bottom for her because of what has happened over the last year with her being in prison in Russia for months? No. Reading the story, beyond the headline, she's calling this rock bottom for the WNBA based on the harassment incident at the airport last month, where someone comes up with her phone and watching it. It's not nearly as inappropriate as some outlets want you to believe, but at the same time, the guy's an idiot looking to gain some notoriety and blaming her release and others others detainment and imprisonment as if it was her decision instead of the government's decision on the trade.
The headline at OutKick is a bit misleading. Brittany Griner says being asked questions in airport, which some claim is harassment, was rock bottom for WNBA's charter flight situation.
Now, the charter flight situation...
She was harassed, okay? There was a guy that had a camera in her face that went up to her when she didn't agree to an interview that some YouTuber that asked her if she had sex with Vladimir Putin to get out of prison.
Right.
That's harassment. I mean, I'm sorry, on any planet, if you're walking through the airport and someone starts filming you and asking you questions like that, you are being harassed. Any person would say they were being harassed with that type of treatment. Now, to claim that it is rock bottom for the WNBA because they don't have charter flights and she was subjugated to walking through an airport like everyone else. There are big-time celebrities who fly Southwest to get to comedy gigs or whatever it may be, that because she was forced to do this, it's rock bottom for the WNBA. Now, that claim by Brittany Griner may be rock bottom for the WNBA. Because I can think of far more incidents that would be rock bottom for the WNBA. So her claim is absurd that this is a new rock bottom for the WNBA's charter flight situation. The league does not make enough money for you to charter flights everywhere for every team. That's why you fly commercial. Now, also, I'm not going to sit here and say that the idiot asking her questions in the airport is without fault. If I'm a teammate of hers, I'd be pissed. There was a security guard for her team that shoved the guy out of the way. Good for him. I'm all for that if someone's walking up to her and asking questions like that as she's walking through the airport. But this claim that this is rock bottom for the WNBA, give me a break.
Well, the reason why they don't have charter flights, because it was written in that they would. There are some owners in the WNBA of these franchises who would send their teams via private charter. Others don't, based on the cash on hand. And so they made this protocol across the league where you can't do certain things if you have the means to do so if every team's not doing it. That's ultimately why they're flying commercial. But also the idiot who's approaching her in the airport and asking her, blaming her for why Victor Boot was released. I mean, give me a break. The Merchant of Death was released based on the government's decision.
Yeah, not hers.
Not Brittany Griner's decision. And, so that aspect, too, should be pointed out. But no, it's not rock bottom for the WNBA. By the way, if you want charter flights, just take Saudi money.
Yeah.
Just take Saudi money.
Saudi's not interested in the WNBA, though, much like most people. They're also not interested yet.
Yes, they would be.
Now, Matt Ishbia, though, the owner who also owns the Phoenix Mercury, he is now flying them charter everywhere.
Well,
she got her wish with their team.
They came back, and they're now allowing this policy through. The Mercury are not that's not the only franchise that can do this. It was just the policy that if every team wasn't doing it, then the teams that wanted to couldn't do it based on operational cash on hand.
Yeah, let me also just call this what it is from Matt Ishbia. It seems like a very nice man, a very wealthy man. This is charity.
Well,
this is charity for him. They're losing money. And they're definitely losing money now. They're chartering flights everywhere they go for his WNBA team.
Right, yeah.
He's being very kind to do this
if they wanted
for her and the team.
If they wanted to come up with the money to do so for every team, they could do that.
Of course.
As a league.
But
I mean,
it might take the private investment fund, as you said.
Sure.
That's one way to easily do it.
But, I mean, there's the Qatari fund that owns 5% of the Wizards now. I mean, that's also, and the Capitals. So it's not like they're opposed to doing that as part of ownership across the NBA. That's why you would have the Saudis involved in the WNBA, because of the NBA's, the umbrella that's over the league.
Everything is on the table. Everything.
That's right. Yeah. Not rock bottom.
Not rock bottom. No, again, I would argue that what's the rock bottom moment is this claim by Brittany Griner. This is one of the rock bottom moments for the WNBA, not the incident itself.
Chad, we mentioned the Saudi fund and, of course, the LIV, PGA, and all that. But whenever we were discussing that, what sports are next? They already have a big stake in like the global aspect of the pro tennis leagues that are not on the main card, the main circuit. But Nick Kyrgios is saying, hey, they've reached out and they're trying to sign me to the Saudi type deal that we saw many take from the LIV Tour as well. Tennis seems to be next up for what they're trying to basically buy. I'm curious how they will go about this compared to how they did it with the LIV Tour, because keep in mind they had Greg Norman front this. Then they had Mickelson. And then we saw the landslide of the last 12 months where the PGA Tour ultimately knew they were going to go under with this massive tsunami of Saudi-backed funds that were going to overtake, and they bought the game of golf.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to have to go. Tennis? I don't think they're going to have to go the route they did with the PGA, because I think the ATP isn't going to be as reluctant, especially now they've seen that the PGA was basically forced to merge.
Right.
Because the amount of money coming in, they're going to be much more willing to play ball. Nick Kyrgios is an outspoken fella. He has been in a lot of controversy. You can go and watch a YouTube highlight of his blow-ups during matches. He's a very talented player.
You can watch him on Breakpoint, I believe, on Netflix.
Yeah, the Australian gets after it and will speak his mind.
The individuals, though.
His take on this is exactly what 99% of people who want to make money, how they would react.
Sure.
Because you're getting an enormous raise. Take your profession right now. If you found out that your office building or your company is about to receive an enormous injection of private investment fund money, and they're going to invest in your company, what is the first thing you think of? Do you think of sports washing? Or do you think of paying for someone to wash and clean your new mansion that you're going to be able to afford now that they're going to be paying you a lot more for your services? So what Kyrgios is saying is exactly the way many athletes and coaches and people in other professions, not just sports, how they would react to this type of news. So I think he's being pretty honest with what he's saying.
Well, he's been honest with his entire career. He doesn't have a coach. He's a manager. And he said he doesn't really know how long he's going to play and how many more times we're going to see him in the Australian Open or Wimbledon or anywhere else year to year. So who knows how much longer he's going to play. But if you want the vocal and honest individual in the sport, it would be him. The question is, who are the versions of who's the Rory in the world of tennis?
ATP?
Yeah, just the world of tennis in general that would be outspoken on the opposite of this, Because that's where
It
you
would have
really
been Roger
had.
Federer.
That's really where you had the divide, though.
Yeah, it would have been
Those
Roger.
that took
It would have
and
been
those that
Roger Federer.
did not.
He would have been the guy who would have. I'm giving a very solid, educated guess here. He would have been the guy to say we don't need to take the money. There's bad things going on there. I think Rafa Nadal probably would have leaned towards Federer's side. I think Novak Djokovic and Kyrgios would be the outspoken mavericks that would take all the money they could and leave the ATP.
And then eventually, and soon after, rejoin.
Yeah, they rejoined when they merged.
No doubt. Coming up, more headlines, including a charity golf tournament that was canceled with an NFL player, plus the Jets and Rodgers and Hard Knocks.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted,
he did
and then how he did it.
He bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live.
Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown.
People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the second hour is here for Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network.
Show
Chad,
is flying by today. Flying by. Great to have you back.
Per your request, right?
Yeah. I don't know. What is per my request?
Flying by.
Oh, yeah. No, look, this is a daily request. This is something we try to get done every single day. We walk in and we say, let's make this as quick as possible for the listeners and for us and for everyone in studio with us. That's the goal.
We started today's show if HBO and the powers that be within the media rights holders of the NFL, if they want Hard Knocks to be with the New York Jets, Chad, they can make this quick and painless too, just like the first hour. Just name the Jets as the host of Hard Knocks instead of running this out and stringing this along as if it's some controversy when the Jets have no say whatsoever if they want to be on it or not based on the rules that are in place across the league.
Yeah, and I even take it as an affront to me personally when the Jets have some issue with it, quite frankly, because your owner signed media rights over. You were eligible to be selected. I don't care if you want to do it or not. In fact, you should want to do it. It's good publicity for your franchise, good publicity for your team. If your coaches are secure enough and know what they're doing, they shouldn't worry about secrets being stolen. You have final cut. You're like the director of a big film where you get the final edit and cut of everything anyways. There's nothing to fear. This is a show that's been going on since 2001 for over 20 years now. No one has lost because they appeared on Hard Knocks. So man up and let's get this thing done because this is what people want to see. And in all seriousness, of the teams that are eligible to be selected, it's not even close. It's the Jets with Aaron Rodgers in his first time with a new team, with that franchise that has struggled so consistently trying to get over the hump. This is what the sports fan wants to see. It's what America wants to see. Let's make it happen.
And it will. It will. It's the no-brainer. The ratings will be through the roof for that first episode. Now, it's up to them
to make it good.
But it's also
or bad. They could be difficult with everything and not give much access at all.
Right. Because you're right. They do have the right of refusal on what gets out and what doesn't and which players participate and which don't. But, man, it would be – can you imagine a camera behind the scenes of whatever Rodgers does for the ayahuasca or anything else that he's doing? He comes in dressed as Nicolas Cage. Like he did last year.
He's maybe slowly be morphing into Nicolas Cage, actual Nicolas Cage, not just playing dress up.
He looks the opposite of that now.
That he's becoming. Yeah, he's all clean cut. Yeah. Looked like he signed with the New York Yankees and not the New York Jets.
He did.
Like they had a haircut and proper shave, trim policy. He came in looking like a businessman and not like someone that's fresh off the set of the Doors movie.
I want to feel as Aaron Rodgers looks in this photo, just refreshed, just ready to go, ready to take on the world, and ready to win a title. He looks like a Super Bowl champion. Yeah, he hasn't for the last couple of years.
He looks like a man poised to go on a run deep into January.
He does.
That's what he strikes me as right now. Do you think that while he saw Jets green and knew to sign with the team based on his trip that he went on, that he also saw a new haircut and a new style and said, I need to change that up as well? Was this all part of his vision quest? Or did he just...
Maybe so.
Was this a sober train of thought that got him to have this haircut?
I wouldn't call it sober, but I also wouldn't call it a problem. I don't know how to describe Aaron Rodgers. I think Rodgers is exactly who he is, but I'd never envisioned he would be courtside with Sauce Gardner for Knicks playoff games.
Yeah.
He's bought in. He's the king of New York right now.
He's like Sinatra. He's singing New York, New York.
Like Withrow as well.
Yeah,
like me and Withrow.
Going through the streets.
It's going to be difficult for him to live up to the hype, though. That's when he's going to be pummeled with the media expectations or the crushing columns when things don't go well early on. And, that's the other part of it from Robert Saleh's aspect. I understand, Chad, though, if the coach and the GM are telling Woody Johnson, hey, we don't want the camera. Why should we be worried about final edit behind the scenes during training camp? We don't want to watch the show. We want to focus on our team.
Well, focus on the team. There's plenty of employees with the Jets that can look over the footage and decide, what's going to be on and what's not. Like, it's just such a...
Most of the time, the coaches just let it go anyway.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Don't worry about it. Like, have a trusted associate that can look at it and say, hey, this is something strategy-wise we don't want seen, so we're going to take this part out, but everything else is fair game.
Chad, this is the time of year where a lot of NFL players are doing charity events. You and I will be involved with some coming up, on golf events and others. Jordan Poyer, safety for the Buffalo Bills, his wife, Rachel Bush, spoke out after the celebrity golf tournament that Poyer has done. I know he did it last year. He may have done it the last couple of years. He had to cancel it when the beneficiary of the tournament pulled out because it was being held at Doral, which is owned by Trump. And, you know, you've got the ECMC Foundation, I believe, is what this money goes towards. And Poyer didn't cancel the event. It's just those behind the scenes did, based on pressure or the fact that you had those that were anti-Trump trying to keep a charity event off of a golf course that was a success a year ago. It's weird. And instead of just trying to move forward and do the tournament anyway, they just decided, hey, we want it to be great, and next year will be outstanding. Thank you. We're not going to hold it at Trump National this year like we did a year ago. It sucks when all of the confusion, the distraction, the arguing gets in the way of just raising some money for a foundation that a player's trying to do because it was a success a year ago. They're running it back at a golf course based on the name of the course.
So it's a little confusing because Rachel Bush, who's the wife of Jordan Poyer, is making statements saying, well, we're going to do it there next year. This is just a postponement, and we're going to have it there next year. Doesn't matter. Well, then why not just do it this year? And she basically cited that they were on vacation and they got some pressure from some sponsors or someone where they're not going to be able to do it this year, but they're still going to go back there and double down next year. They just didn't want to deal with it because they were on vacation. This is the double-edged sword of cancel/boycott culture. This is why I don't like it. Because Donald Trump owns a golf course, even if this is going to be something that raised a ton of money for a great and worthy cause, and people were okay being involved with this event, if it's anywhere else, they're going to back out and put pressure on Jordan Poyer to not raise money for this charity. And even the charity that's benefiting from it is part of the pressure put on him for this. Well, what's the end game here?
Well, because
all that ends up happening is this charity doesn't get the money.
Right. It's for educational ventures, and I believe they're based out of the Los Angeles area, ECMC Foundation. But the beneficiary, ECMC, is the one that told Poyer they didn't want to be a part of it based on others that were coming at them for where this tournament was going to be hosted.
It's all unintended consequences for something that just makes someone feel better about themselves.
Right.
So here we have people who hate Donald Trump, that feel like this is the stand they must take against Donald Trump. We are not going to support a charity that we've supported in the past because the event is taking place on a Trump-owned golf course. So now, screw the charity. It's not going to make the money. We're not going to be a part of it. And then on the other side, you've got a situation where never buy Bud Light again. Don't buy Bud Light.
It's all
boycott
BS.
it. But guess what the unintended consequence of that was? OutKick's even interviewed someone who lost their job because of that.
Right.
Who's claiming that it was a European-owned company that self-sabotaged the brand, which ultimately cost American workers jobs and benefits. And all that movement did was make some people feel better about themselves.
And they
while people lost jobs.
Self-sabotaged based on the union that was so strong, they couldn't downsize the 30,000 Americans that were working here in the U.S.
It's not hurting the parent company owned in Belgium that has hundreds of other brands that make a lot of money. It cost people that had nothing to do with a poor decision their jobs.
Right.
And here we have another situation on the other side of that. And it's why on this show we will constantly point out hypocrisy, that because someone disagrees with Donald Trump, let's cost a charity a ton of money. Hey, screw those kids.
Not only
that are going to benefit from this with post-secondary school opportunities.
The charity is willing to
because I don't like Donald
money
Trump
based on the pressure.
It's so stupid. And it's like you're in a washing machine going round and round and round and round. And, well, this is for a good cause and this isn't. And this is just end all of it and have a discussion. Like,
No,
let's have a discussion.
We can't do that. We got to have a headline and a fake.
So stupid.
Fake controversy. By and large, the people that we talk to, Chad, don't give a damn who they sit next to at a stadium. By and large. Now, maybe you do if you're in a suite and you're trying to figure out if the person next to you is, related to the boss or the CEO of the company. But when's the last time you sat down at a sporting event and said, man, I really hope I'm not sitting next to this Democrat today or this Republican? Doesn't happen. And nor does it matter if I'm paying to play in Jordan Poyer's celebrity charity golf tournament, what side of the aisle he's on because of a golf tournament held at a golf course. That to me is also just asinine. And common sense would tell you, don't buy in to the phone calls or the headlines that people are trying to create just to cause a stir. When if you ignore it, the golf tournament proceeds, and you raise money for a good cause for educational purposes based on the needs of those in that community.
Yeah, I see and hear from plenty of smart people in our YouTube chat. We're having a good discussion about this right now. Allie's comparing it, saying, hey, kind of like the NHL, the whole specialty jersey thing was to raise money, and now they're not going to raise as much money for charities. I do think there's a little bit of a difference there in that is someone forcing someone to wear a specific jersey, and they're saying we're not going to mandate players wear something they don't want to wear anymore. And you can still sell the jersey and raise money for charities all you want,
no doubt,
as an individual team. So there is a bit of a difference there. I just, kind of going back to what you said, like Jordan Poyer, okay, he supported Donald Trump, still does, is a Republican. He's also, a guy, if you disagree with that and him on that issue, he's a guy who's doing a lot of good work with him and his family for a very worthy cause. You supported it in the past. You knew where he stood politically, so why not continue to support it? Like, that's a time where we could actually be talking about a good story of people that disagree politically on something, saying, you know what, though? Let's put it aside. This guy's putting forth a lot of effort. He's got some great celebrities coming to this event. It's going to raise a ton of money for us if you're the charity, or if you're a sponsor, it's going to raise a ton of money for a group that we're interested in helping. So we can put that aside for a day and go play some golf and have some drinks and have some fun and raise some money. But instead, it's cancel/boycott culture, spin cycle, repeat, washing machine over and over again. Stupidity.
Yeah. And here's a guy, here's a couple that are willing to give back to any community they're a part of. In this case, this is something that resonates with Poyer, with ECMC. Simply saying, hey, we're going to do a charity event next year. They didn't say who with. They just said they're going to run it back with the tournament that was successful prior. This is someone I would want to partner with, regardless of where this is held. And there are plenty of charities out there, Chad, that are constantly trying to get their name and their overall business statement, their model for who they're helping and why it matters to the community. This is someone to call up and try to partner with if I'm one of the, not just local, but national charities that are looking to partner with somebody that's actually trying to put on a good event and do it annually, regardless of what chirping is going on behind the scenes.
Totally agree.
Chad, the Paris Olympics may not have alcohol for sale, and this is based on a French law. This reminds me of like...
I thought the French were very pro-alcohol. This shocks me. I feel like the French are very, they're liberated, baby.
But
they're out there, the French.
Follow me here. I think they are pro-alcohol, just like college football and college basketball fans are pro-alcohol. But if you go to the NCAA tournament, right, that for years it was difficult. You couldn't go to the SEC tournament and go up to a stand and buy a beer. You could hopefully try to work your way into a suite where you could do it behind the scenes. And that's apparently what's going to take place at the Olympics next year in Paris, where unless you're a VIP, you won't be able to have a cold beer while watching whatever event you're attending for the Olympic Games. But there's a French law that prohibits the sale or distribution of alcohol in, quote, stadiums, physical education rooms, gymnasiums, and other sports establishments. The workaround is the different rules can be applied in certain hospitality areas, hence VIPs being able to consume booze.
So the French will drink anywhere other than sporting events, is what I'm hearing. Art galleries, going to the movies.
The wealthy French will drink everywhere.
Anywhere you want to go. The aristocrats will drink at all artistic pursuits. But if it's an athletic event, no, we're not going to drink at those. We're going to stay totally sober.
But this is
at sporting events.
But this was more of like the religious aspect of what was happening in Qatar, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was, that was very different.
But you could also get a VIP deal for that.
And have like a corporate area where you could go. Well, so here's the thing. I think about this similar to like college football. When you restrict or limit alcohol, does it lead to worse incidents because of binge drinking or sneaking booze in somewhere? You know, that's what I always thought about for years with college football. People are like racing to get done with every bit of alcohol they can before going to the game and leaving the tailgate. Are you going to get into some of those situations now at the Olympics? I also don't think the Olympics are a big booze fest, right? I don't think it's like a big tailgating, get sloshed at the game type of event.
Will it be in LA in 2028?
Maybe.
Probably not. Who knows?
We go big in America. We know that. We go big.
John McClain joins us next, then Tito Ortiz. That's coming up this hour on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow.
I had an incident very similar. So I go to Boston, and I don't remember how many starts in. I want to say this is May sometime. And Carlos Delgado's at the plate, and we're winning 4-0 or something. And I give up. He hits a pop-up down the left field line, and Manny jogs in from left. He's jogging, and the ball drops in fair and bounces out for a double. And there's no doubt in my mind he could have caught the ball in his back pocket if he'd been running. So at the end of the inning, I come in and I set my glove down, and I immediately turn left, and I'm going to head to the end of the dugout and where he's at. And Jason Varitek stops me like with hand on my chest. He's like, "You can't." I'm like, "What do you mean I can't?" He's like, "Not here, not now." I'm like, I'm dropping F-bombs. I'm like, and he's like, I know. We'll deal with it, but just don't do it now. And I was like, okay, trusting him. And it was the right thing to do. It wasn't. I ended up blowing the game, by the way. We lost. We had like a 7-4-1 lead. I blew the game in the 8th inning, but I let that bother me big time for the rest of the game. And I'd seen that happen. The times that Manny and I got into a little bit were all around that effort. I had a problem with anybody and effort, but that wouldn't have been the right time to do it, and I would have done it inappropriately had he let me go, which is ended up being a good thing. But that happens a lot. Not a lot. It happens often, I guess is how I should say, in the big leagues. Michael Kay had an interview the other day on the Yes Network with Hal Steinbrenner, and he asked about all the anger from the fan base, and here's the quote. I understand from Steinbrenner. I understand that they're upset. I'm a little confused this year, being the 3rd week of June, why they're so upset, but they're upset, and that's going to get my attention, of course, said Steinbrenner. Everybody just needs to know that we're working hard on all fronts to get this back on the rails and start playing like we were for a couple of weeks there in May. In June, the Yanks are dead last in OPS and batting average. They have just 96 hits on the month. No team has fewer than 111 for the Mariners except for the Yanks. And they're 9.5 games behind the first place Rays. That's the stat that scares you. I'm not sure that Hal Steinbrenner understands the Major League schedule, because he's using the 3rd week of June as a reason that they shouldn't be upset, and it's the exact opposite. 3rd week of June is nearing the halfway point. and you need to be concerned. And there's a pretty good chance, barring a miracle, you're not going to make up the 9.5 games on Tampa because they're just not going to play that poorly. Making up 9.5 games means basically you have to go 10-0 when the other team goes 0-10. And that's a 10-game better. But I will say this. Let's go back to the balanced schedule. That will change things. It will change things, I think, for the better and for the worse. You're not going to get an extra 6 or 7 games against the Rays, which you could use to make up that ground, but you are going to get an extra 5 to 6 games against the Royals and the A's that you wouldn't otherwise have. So some yin and yang there.
Kurt Schilling joins us in an hour on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network.
Plenty to talk about with him.
Oh, no doubt. Hope you'll join us on YouTube. You can subscribe to the channel there. Search out OutKick. Subscribe. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoy the show. You can also ring that bell, and every time we go live or other shows across the network go live, you can be alerted to that each and every day. Right here and at OutKick.com.
Speaking of Kurt Schilling, I actually have a baseball question for our next guest that I know he's going to have a solid opinion on.
John McClain joins us live from Houston. We're going to dive into the biggest NFL topics in just a moment. John, hope things are well.
Things are very well. Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
So, John, what did you make of Rob Manfred, MLB commissioner, coming back 5 years later and saying he regrets taking player suspensions off the table with the Astros cheating scandal?
I wish he had put the player suspensions in there, because then none of them would have told him the truth and he wouldn't have been able to prove anything. By offering the players immunity, they coughed up all the information he wanted to make the decisions he made, because he said at the time, if I hadn't have given them immunity when I interviewed them, none of them's going to tell the truth. So maybe the penalties wouldn't have been nearly as harsh as they were if he'd have done that originally.
And they're still getting booed, even though they're on other franchises. But that's part of the penalty here they have immunity, but not with the fan bases
No, they don't give a rat's about what fans think in other cities. The other day, and I thought it was great, the Dodgers who, and I'll say this, when they beat the Dodgers in the World Series, the Astros hit better at Dodger Stadium than they did at Minute Maid Park, and some of the Dodgers choke like crazy. But if they want to whine about it, that's fine, because the Astros did cheat, and they got caught, and they got penalized. But it's so funny to me, all these players on other teams who were cheating at the time, like Carlos Correa and George Springer, they get standing ovations. And then against the Dodgers, I think it was Sunday or Saturday, Alex Bregman and Jose Altuve get booed the most. Now, Altuve had 4 hits. Bregman had a grand slam. And it was proved that Altuve had nothing to do with it, and all these other players did. But somehow he's the poster child for the scandal. But he's hit and played very well since. And, of course, they've been in the American League Championship Series 6 years in a row, World Series 4 times they've won 2, and they won 1 last year without cheating. It's also funny because Red Sox were caught cheating, Yankees were caught cheating, and they had very little happen to them. And but I think that just makes it more interesting.
John McClain with us, like the Astros, also a champion, a Hall of Famer, Pro Football Hall of Famer, and Pro Football Hall of Fame selector as well. Dalvin Cook continues to float his name out there. They're doing a great job with this in what is the quiet season across the National Football League leading up to training camp. Most recently with the Jets, where he has a former teammate of his that's saying, hey, we've got room, bring on Dalvin Cook. No teams, though, are being reported as showing a ton of interest in Dalvin Cook. Ultimately, John, what comes of this? Because I think it's obvious that he still has a lot left And at some point, a team is going to have a need. It's just not right now.
And what does it always come down to? It comes down to money. You're a running back like Cook, your lifespan as a running back is not going to be long. He's going to go where he gets the best deal financially. Then he's going to see the team that gives him a chance to go to the Super Bowl. And same thing with DeAndre Hopkins. Those guys are veterans. They're looking to get paid. It's a terrible time to be a free agent for both of them because a lot of teams don't have money. There's a story today, I think Albert Breer had it in Sports Illustrated, that Cleveland's not interested in DeAndre Hopkins despite all the public campaigning by Deshaun Watson. So I have no idea if Hopkins is going to get up with the Titans. That's where he should go because he's got an offensive coordinator and head coach who know him very well. And he's got an offensive coordinator in New England, knows him very well. So well, they hated each other. He couldn't wait to get rid of him. So maybe it'll be another team pop up, but Cook will find a landing spot. Some people may think he's going to wait around until somebody gets hurt. But I think the first team that gives him a deal, his agent says, I think you ought to take this, that's the team where he will go.
John, let's stick with the Jets. Why should I care if the Jets don't want to be on Hard Knocks? I don't care if teams feel like they have too many noon games, but it's what the television networks and the league decides. And now we've got a situation where the league can mandate a team to be on Hard Knocks, and everyone wants to see the Jets. So the fact that they don't want to be on Hard Knocks does not concern me because that's the team we all want to see. Where do you fall on this?
I think they should be made to do it. That is the team everybody wants to see. The NFL have rules. If you violate the rules, you get penalized. Now, what would be a good penalty if they didn't put them on there? No money, no amount of money. Take a number one draft choice from them, that would get their attention. That when Rex Ryan was there, he loved being on.
Yeah.
Last year, Dan Campbell loved being on. Bill O'Brien didn't want to go on here in 2015. They did. They still finished 9-7. In fact, that some say it's a distraction. They only say that after the season when they didn't play as well as they should have. Nobody cares about the Saints or the Bears or the Commanders. Everybody wants to see the Jets. I saw some speculation. Well, the Jets can make it hard on them. No, they can't. I mean, they're not going to do that. If you have to do it, you have to do it. Just grow some footballs and do it.
John, where are we on the contract extensions or the possibility of them for Herbert and Burrow? And Burrow waiting on Herbert to get done. Do you think he can just continue to do that if the Chargers aren't going to go at the same pace that Burrow wants to go currently with the Bengals?
I think if that's agent talk, agents want to be able to say they got the biggest. It's like Patrick Mahomes when he signed his 10-year deal, and you looked at the value like, oh my God, there's never been a contract like that. And then if you looked at, that's not so good, it's tied him down for 10 years. Now they're going to redo it. I bet it'll be next year. He'll be the highest paid in history. If Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Justin Herbert, he's got a better record, he's got a better team. Burrow ought to be the first, and then Herbert's not going to get more than Burrow. And it's amazing today. The contracts are great. You get an enormous amount of money, takes care of them for their lifetimes, their kids' lifetimes, grandkids, great grandkids' lifetimes. But the fact is, the agents always want to say they negotiated the biggest one, and I think Burrow ought to go next.
Do you think they get done before camp or before the season?
One of the problems with the Bengals are not, the team's worth multiple billions, but the Brown family's not. There's never been that they're out, they're developers or they're investors or they own a lot of businesses. They relied, as did the Rooney family, on their football team. So, and when you guarantee money, you got to put a big portion of that in escrow. The guarantee is getting to be so big today that I'm not sure that they could do it. Maybe they'll change the rules for the Brown family since they've been around for so long. But I'm guessing if they get to training camp, it's not going to get done before the season starts.
What are your expectations for Derek Carr in New Orleans? He's telling the Fresno Bee about how things ended with the Raiders, saying he was very unhappy. Things went the way they did based on how things were handled. Said he was upset, he was mad, but the final straw was whenever the organization made his wife cry, and that's when he knew he was not coming back. He was done. How does that carry over for the Saints? There has not been a lot of talk about him or New Orleans. That division is very winnable. And for years, we've talked about this guy needing a fresh start and how it could rejuvenate some of the things behind center. What do you make of Carr now with the fresh surroundings and the fact he's in the NFC?
You give me $35 million a year, you can make my wife cry every day of the week, all year around. It's not going to get any sympathy. He never won a playoff game. I don't even know. He played one, I think.
Just one.
And Carr's a really good guy. He threw for a lot of yards 2 years ago. Problems he had last year, I'm guessing, were between him and Josh McDaniels. McDaniels has had problems with his quarterbacks before, but when he had Tom Brady, Brady ruled the roost. And I'm guessing he's going to go there and play better, and they're going to win a bad division. Falcons, I don't see it. Panthers, not with a rookie quarterback. And Buccaneers could be one of the worst teams in the league.
Yep.
I think Saints will win it. Dennis Allen, I think in another year he'll be gone. He had 2 bad years with the Raiders. They coached 4-12. He's a great defensive coordinator. They do have some talent there. They're counting on a lot of ifs. If Michael Thomas can come back, if Derek Carr can play the way he did 2 years ago. Best thing about being a Saints fan is you ought to be able to win that division, and an 8-9 record may do it.
John, a fellow Baylor Bear of yours, same alumnus, same alma mater, Robert Griffin III, RG3, he went on with Rich Eisen, and he speculated that the issue between Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen is an issue between Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. And they had a bromance until that loss to Cincinnati, and things have not been good since then. What's the best course of action now for that team? And what do you think about the Bills now with a Stephon Diggs that seems to be a malcontent and not happy with his situation in that offense?
Boo-hoo. How many passes? He caught over 100 passes last year. He's become one of the best receivers in the league. These wide receivers are something else. You talk about divas. So what's his problem? Josh Allen didn't throw him the ball enough. Look at his targets. He got mad, and I think based on Josh Allen's comments when Diggs took off, I think he knew there's issue that had nothing to do with money, because he got a 3-year extension of $99 million last year. And Diggs is a terrific receiver, and one of the reasons he's a terrific receiver, he played with a really good quarterback, now a great quarterback. And you don't have to like somebody to throw him the ball unless you're a head case and a powder like Diggs must be. It shouldn't be a distraction, and you'd hope that Sean McDermott can make it work, because the problems extend to one game in which he didn't get what he wanted out of it. That's preposterous.
And, John, it's not just one game. It's apparently one drive. If you think this whole thing is preposterous, wait till you hear the quote from Robert Griffin III, who said, in talking to people close to the situation, it boils down to that in the last game against the Bengals, Diggs was the most targeted receiver in the game. He had 10 targets in the game. But when they were down 17, they had a 10-play drive that ended in a turnover on downs, and Diggs only got one ball thrown his way. So you would think that a player of Diggs' caliber, with the relationship that he has with Josh Allen, in those moments, he would look to him more often, and that didn't happen. And that's where cameras caught him yelling at Josh Allen on the sideline. So he's angry about a game where he was the most targeted wide receiver in the game. I mean, come on. And RG3's arguing now it's up to Josh Allen to properly manage that relationship. Maybe that's the case. But I'm with you on the boo-hoo comment with Stephon Diggs.
Like with everything you just said, just so shows the ridiculousness of that situation. And what if Diggs was double covered? What about that drive that was so crucial to the game if they doubled him? What if he wasn't getting open? Did Josh Allen just say, you know what, on the most important drive of the season, I'm not going to throw the ball to Diggs. Give me a bleeping break. That's just unbelievable. It's hard enough to win in the NFL when you don't have head cases. And people may wonder about RG3, how he would know this. I don't know how he knows, other than the fact Baylor people are just really smart and shrewd. But somebody said he has the same agent as Diggs. And if that's the case, then I'm pretty sure we know where it comes from.
Interesting that it happens in June as well and not in training camp.
Better to get it out of the way now.
Right. John, final 30 seconds or so, and maybe we can carry this over, but what concessions are being made for Josh Harris to purchase the Commanders for future ownership possibilities?
There's a lot of things about how much money you got to have 30% liquid.
Yeah.
30% of 6.050 billion. Ooh, you'd have to call RG3 to figure that out real quick. But you got to be liquid, and there's some other
the
rules.
Controlling owner, you're saying, has to have that.
Yeah, you got to have that, and you've got to also. There's a certain limitation on what you can borrow, and it has to do with your partners. And they want to get rid of Snyder so bad. I imagine the league's going to make concessions to get the deal done.
John, thank you as always. Love chatting ball with you. Let's do it again next week.
Jonathan and Chad Lack, it's always my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
look
John.
Forward to it. John McClain, NFL columnist. He's covered the NFL for 5 decades. Pro Football Hall of Famer and Hall of Fame selector.
One of the absolute best.
UFC Hall of Famer Tito Ortiz joins us when we return. He's put his hat in to train Elon Musk against Mark Zuckerberg. Or is it all hype? We'll ask him next.
What is your primary complaint?
When people pop their knuckles.
Primary complaint is chewing with your mouth open. Yuck.
I would say when you're getting off an airplane and people in the back try and sprint to the front, especially like late at night, like you don't have a connecting flight, just wait like everybody else. I'd say that's fine.
Small portions, big bill. Yeah, if the quality is good, it's okay. But if there's small portions and I got a big fat bill, not a thing, you know.
Sun Country Airlines canceling our flight less than 8 hours before we're supposed to leave.
I've never even heard of Sun Country Airlines in my life.
Velcro.
Velcro? Why? What about it?
The sound.
Oh, like nails on a chalkboard for you.
I'm a kindergarten teacher, and to hear that Velcro.
Time to teach them how to tie their shoes.
When they don't cross the road when no cars are driving.
They're just waiting for the light?
Yeah, like a normal person.
Yeah, you got to break the rules a little bit.
We're right from New York City. We know how to walk.
Really upset. Ben Jones is no longer with the Titans, but more importantly, I'm upset the Titans didn't draft a wide receiver in the top 2 rounds. We need receivers, guys. Come on, tighten up.
So what do you think about Will Levis? Was that a good move or a bad move?
Ooh, that's a tough call. Time will tell. But I think we needed a receiver more.
Smack their gum, chew with their mouth open and smack their gum.
Okay.
That with chips and everything else, yeah. Liars.
Liars, okay. Has anyone lied to you recently?
No.
Have you lied?
Always.
One of the biggest pet peeves is not knowing your manners. Like, not having respect or thank you, sir, ma'am.
My biggest pet peeve is when you don't push your chair in after you leave a table. That's my biggest pet peeve. Really is.
So, like, when people want to speak to you and they're like you to me, but they start walking out of the other room into different rooms and they keep talking like, I am supposed to understand. I can't hardly understand people when their back is turned to me, when they're not talking right at me. So when you're getting into different rooms and you keep talking like, yeah, blah, 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 it must be my dog talking to me.
There's a crane over every building. There's a truck.
There's a hole, something. Yeah. So let's get the streets fixed and get those things done. Time's wasted. Let's go.
A dirty house.
Dirty house. Like, are you a shoes off at the front door kind of guy?
Off front, yes, ma'am.
I hate it when centre backs don't bat the odd one. Do you know,
What?
when the centre backs go up to try and catch the ball all the time, they should back the odd one.
You know, siblings are pet peeves, you know, to be honest with you. You know, just looking at him, he's a pet peeve.
I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I like to get along with others. I kind of leave people in their place. When people don't follow the social construct, it really upsets me. Example, when you stand up on an airplane, right when it lands, and then try to push past people down the line, you know what orders you're supposed to go in. That's the part of the social contract. When you're grocery shopping and you have your cart and you don't take it back to the cart delivery spot, but you just leave it by there beside the parking spot, taking up someone else's spot, violating the social contract. Do what you're supposed to. Yeah, do your civic duty. Follow through with what your parents told you to do.
Sixth and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hutton and Withrow with you for Hot Mic across the OutKick network. Tom Pelissero is saying that Josh Jacobs could hold out week 1 of the 2023 season. Quote, one situation no one's talking about is Josh Jacobs. At this point, if there's not a long-term deal, I don't anticipate Jacobs being there at the start of training camp. This would be a dumb decision by Jacobs to hold out based on the fact one signature by July 17th, I believe it's that week. One signature by that day, that Monday, I believe, would guarantee him over $10 million for a position of wear and tear and the value of the position where it's not going to get much better. I'm on the side of the running backs and the great ones, I'm saying, that are currently in the league. Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, there are others. But, Chad, this is not the play based on the position. If you're a quarterback and you have the leverage, if you're A.J. Brown and you have the right leverage at the right time, you use it. The running back spot doesn't have that same leverage.
Well, Eddie George is in studio with us and said the exact same thing. Said, my advice would be, young man, where's your leverage? You don't have any. To any running back wanting to play this game, and that's from the legend Eddie George, who played the running back position in the NFL for a long time, and that's not some animosity towards running backs or them wanting to gain leverage. It's just reality. So it would be a terrible business move by Josh Jacobs to play that game. Hutton, I've got an update on the poll question about whether or not I should take my 3-year-old Lucy back to swim lessons.
After a disastrous experience.
2 days, but I made it a day and a half of an hour-long class each day.
And for those joining us, I said
mark.
The 2 other fathers that were there in the pool will shake Chad's hand when he returns tomorrow and give him a fist bump and say thank you for leaving early. There will be no shame behind this whatsoever.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is because people just want to see me suffer or because they legitimately think I should take her back.
I'm not answering that way either.
76% of people say come back, to take her back to lessons tomorrow. Now, this has evoked a big response from people. This is great. I love the photo from grown-ups of me in the swim cap. I do wear a swim cap quite often, actually. But this is some other people are like, hey, where do you take her? I know a guy that you can leave. When he'll take 2 or 3 little kids at a time.
Oh, but you
can't watch.
You wouldn't be able to leave though.
But I also heard from the same person that said they brought their young son and all he did was cry for an hour each day and wouldn't do anything. So even the instructor, it's not some magic trick. They can't get them to do something they're not going to do or too afraid to do. So I'm torn, Hutton. Let's
go back.
I'm at an impasse on what to do. I almost want to research other.
This is your new softball team.
Well, then it's also like, is this traumatic now to where every time she goes back to this place, she's not going to want to do it? So I need a different setting?
You just have to go right back in. Like I benefited from that, I'm telling you.
Well, I mean, look, I could keep her not crying and having fun the whole time, but she wouldn't do any of the exercises. She would just stand and play and go under the water every now and again and just be in the water without floaties on, but she wouldn't. It's not like when she starts to scream and grab me is when I'm forcing her to do the things the instructor's doing.
Can you bring Evie with you?
There are some older kids there, but I think they take the classes after.
I think she would help. She could help. Just saying.
Maybe.
Trying to help you out.
Evie's passed this class 3 times. She's already passed this class with flying colors. So maybe.
Chad, we had Trent Dilfer on the show last week, head coach at UAB, first-year college coach. And, you know, we had him on because he had made the comments recently that we found it refreshing, a different take on NIL and the transfer portal, where he said, hey, and he said with us, if a player is good enough, you know, I'll use corner as an example. It could be any position. If a guy is good enough to go make $200,000 his junior year at name the top tier program, I'll use Alabama because it's in the same state. Who am I as a player's coach? I call myself a player-centric coach to tell that guy, hey, don't take the money, stay here at UAB or wherever, and not continue your career for 1 year. At least that would be the path in theory, because he would enter the draft after his junior season based on the trajectory that he's on. And Trent was like, hey, you know, if I've coached this guy who's probably a 2 or 3 star based on how we recruit at the level of the Conference USA, to where the Crimson Tide or any top-tier team wants him to come in and play, and that's going to help his NFL hopes for generational wealth, who am I to stop that player if it's in his best interest? And we'll take it as it comes. But you and I were chatting this morning. Rick and Bubba had Trent Dilfer on their show, on their program, and I felt like the line of the discussion points, Chad, kind of stem from our conversation. I'm not saying that it absolutely did, but it's certainly a branch on the same tree where Dilfer's now saying in kind of a follow-up, hey, you know, while I may feel this way, you're saying he's not saying there's an open door policy for coaches and recruiters to come in to Birmingham with UAB and start scouting his roster, right?
Yeah, we got into a really good conversation with Trent about how he is a player-focused coach. So if he's going to be, he doesn't want to be a hypocrite about it. If he's going to be a player-focused coach, if someone can legitimately better their circumstances and they feel like they can, he's not going to stand in their way, which a lot of coaches have said, and most of them take that stance now. Maybe this was the wearing down of that point where he almost felt like, hey, I'm being seen now as almost weak. Like my program's open to any and all people who want to come in and get a player that they think they can get an upgrade with on my roster. So he went not in a different direction, but the flip side of this coin with the Rick and Bubba show, talking about what might happen with coaches who come after him.
As you hear his answer here, just know that, and I think you agree, I loved his stance on the transfer portal from his vantage point as a player's coach. And when you hear this, I also love this response about programs that would be considered a shelf or two higher than where UAB is, taking a glance at Dilfer's roster.
And you're going to play in national televised games every week, and that's really easy to say. And then kid shows up, and he's like, well, wait a second, why am I the third guy? By the way, come try to get my guys. Right. Like, I dare you, Power Fives. I got a pretty big platform that I can step on. Yeah. And if I find you in my kids' DMs, and if I find you talking to high school coaches about my kids, if you're in my roster, I'm going to call your ass out. I'm going to say it by name to the biggest voices in television today, and it's going to make Game Day, and it's going to make Sports Center, and it's going to make, because by the way, those guys running Sports Center are still my friends.
That's right. I still got their
So go ahead. I dare you to jump into my roster. And I told the American coach the same thing. I said, why don't you guys have the you-know-whats to stand up and say, get out of my roster?
Right.
I said, here's why, because you want their job.
Oh.
You said it. I want this job.
That's right.
I don't want no power. I want this job. I want to live in Birmingham. I want to live downtown. I want to go see my grandson in Nashville. I don't want that other job. So I don't care if you blackball me.
Right.
I want this job. I want the city of Birmingham to say, no, that's our city. That's our coach. Right? And so go ahead. I'm not scared of whoever, the grand poopah of poopahs, to blackball me.
There is Trent Dilfer, head coach at UAB, daring the Power 5 to recruit his roster. Chad, when he is working for any program, he is all in. And I believe him when he says he will call out those who dare try to poach his players. He will do that. And he should. It's already happening. I mean, he told us he's already let a guy go in the portal.
So what he says is accurate.
Yeah.
The motivation for these coaches not to call out Ryan Day at Ohio State or Brian Kelly at LSU. I'm not saying these guys are the only ones doing it. I'm just saying coaches of that ilk.
Yes.
Nick Saban at Alabama. Go to any other Power 5 coach. The reason they're not calling them out, I do think, in large part, is because they want to be seen as someone who gets along with the coaching community and doesn't ruffle too many feathers, because a lot of these guys do covet those jobs that they're talking about with those coaches. So what they also want is the ability to do the exact same when they get those jobs.
Yes, you're right.
You know, when the UAB coach, if let's say Trent Dilfer is anyone else, if he's Bill Clark, the old UAB coach, and he wants to move up, when the UAB coach takes the Arkansas job, let's say, hypothetically, they want the ability to go to UAB or other programs that aren't in the Power 5 and raid some of their best players when they can. And if it takes tampering with those players, so be it. There are coaches who think that way. Trent Dilfer has an opportunity to be a leader in his field of being honest and not being a fake, and coming right out and telling everyone, you know what happened to me this past week? Nick Saban, 45 minutes down the road, DM'd one of my guys. Or I know people on that Alabama staff, I will call them out specifically, who have called his high school coach about transferring in. He hasn't done it yet. If it happens, oh boy, look out. It's going to be fun covering that story. And I also believe that Trent Dilfer, who's made a ton of money playing in the NFL as a television guy, he is coaching right now where he wants, and he's not necessarily looking to move up or get a job elevation, promotion to another gig. So he's in a place of security and comfort to out those that come after his roster. So maybe, Hutton, I'm hoping against hope here, but I hope he actually does it.
Well, let me tell you who I thought of whenever I'm hearing this. And it's not Deion Sanders, it's Hugh Freeze at Auburn. Have they signed a right guard yet in the transfer portal? They're one player away from having a completely new starting 11 from the group that was on the depth chart for Auburn football January 1st. And if you think about Hugh Freeze's coaching career, he was a high school coach at Briarcrest High School. He then, is known for being the offensive guru that's, a quarterback developer. He ends up as like a recruiting coordinator at Ole Miss. He then goes to Arkansas State. He becomes the Arkansas State head coach. And you mentioned like playing the game of the poaching because you want to be able to do that. He was the Arkansas State offensive coordinator and head coach that became the Ole Miss head coach and recruited some really good players to go play for the Rebels at Ole Miss. Several of them remain in the NFL right now. Top players on offenses. Point being, Chad, he's done it again because he went to Liberty, and now he's back at Auburn, back in the SEC, and he's replacing everybody. And he's kind of the coach that no one's talking about that's doing the exact same thing Deion's doing, and it just so happens to be in Trent Dilfer's state of Alabama. That's who I'm thinking of. I don't know this to be true, but Freeze played that game that you're talking about, and Dilfer's saying he's not going to. Again, I'm just trying to connect dots based on where my common sense would take me. I have no idea if that's who Dilfer's talking about. If we're talking grand poobahs, I'm not thinking Hugh Freeze immediately, but that's how he described it.
He could become a grand poobah quickly, though, if he has some quick success.
He has
at
victories
Auburn.
over the grand poobah in Saban, 2 of them.
2 in a row.
The
At
only
Ole Miss.
coach to do that.
Yeah.
So
I just hope it happens.
Me too.
And the higher profile, the better, or the bloodier the feud, the better. And I like where your head's at there, Hutton, because I think that UAB, located in Birmingham, Auburn, directly east,
6-6
southeast
team that went to a bowl.
I think that there could be something brewing with them. If that happens,
that's
a great
by the
backyard feud to be
by the way, Trent Dilfer's high school quarterback that he coached went where? Auburn.
That's right.
Didn't follow Trent Dilfer to UAB. Again, completely different level. I would go to the SEC as well over
And we
Conference
know
USA.
Hugh Freeze knows how to work DMs. We know for a fact the man knows how to get into someone's DMs.
He does. He's an expert, the grand poobah of DMs.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader.
I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life.
ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted
he
and then how he did it.
He bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the final hour is here on this Tuesday edition. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. Glad you're with us. If you're joining us on this great radio station, we say thank you across the network there. Or on YouTube, you can stream the show live or on demand. But if you're joining us live, we say join us in the chat. Chad's there.
Chat has been good today. Been very good.
Busy?
Busy.
Voting on the poll question about Chad and his daughter and whether or not after 30 minutes early you removed her from the swim class based on
5-day class, 1 hour each day, completed the hour on Monday, miserable the entire time, got through 30 minutes a day after warning my 3-year-old the whole time if she didn't at least try to do the things, we were going to leave, and I delivered on that threat, and we left at about the 34-minute mark of the class.
You should go back. That's the vote. Yes or no? Chad should take her back.
The vote is that I should go back. I am still very reluctant to do so.
I remember like
I should video this experience for everyone to understand what I'm talking about, what I'm discussing with all this.
I don't remember much like pre 4 years old, right? Maybe 5. I don't have vivid memories of much based on it's mainly just stories. But I do remember swim class and not wanting to join everyone in the deep end based on whatever fear was going on in my mind at the time. And I was forced in. I was thrown in. And I was better off for it. Now, that's not happening now. But
there are classes that will do that, though.
I do relate to the fear, but also relate to why people vote yes, because you don't want to prolong this another year. Don't wait until next summer. Like, just go ahead and take her back tomorrow.
I don't. Here's the issue, though, that
it's
I'm running up
tomorrow or
against.
next June.
I agree with you. Like, it's not. I don't want to wait a whole other year. I don't think bringing her back is going to make her any better. I know my daughter, and she's not going to magically start doing everything tomorrow. If she didn't do it after I yelled at her and shamed her, and she had to walk in the door and go cry to her mom the way she did, and I felt terrible for it, and she had to draw me a picture saying she was sorry because she said I didn't say I forgive you when she told me she was sorry in the car. And then watching her get hyped up about day number 2 and talk about all the things she's going to do and the rubber ducky she's going to win and everything that's going to happen. And watching her fall apart the moment I said, I'm going to hold you like this in the water and let you float. And she would not do it or let go of the side or even talk to the instructor. I don't think day 3 is going to be any different.
Let me ask this question this way. Is it more about her learning to swim or overcoming a fear?
Oh, it's
because for me it was just a fear.
It's twofold. It is her learning to overcome a fear while also doing something she doesn't want to do. Because she's very good about I will throw a fit if I really don't want to do something.
But is it because she's afraid or just because she doesn't want to do it?
She's afraid, but I think also she just doesn't want to try because she wants to be in the comfort spot of walking on the steps, being in the water there, playing in the water, and having the edge right there to grab a hold of.
Okay.
The entire time.
Give it one more day.
It's also a 35-minute drive. Let me be honest. Let me be completely honest and transparent right now. It's a 35-minute drive. It's not a fun drive.
Change my answer.
35-minute drive, not a fun drive.
What time?
It's a 9 a.m. class.
Yeah, brutal.
No, sorry, 10 a.m. class. So the time-wise, I've been up for hours at that point. It's not a big deal. It's just, what am I doing? I can take her to my neighborhood pool, and she can stand on the steps, and she can just get used to the water with me and her. So am I going to do it? Am I going to do it to go all through Friday, where on Friday, parents and grandparents can come watch, and then I watch my daughter not pass the class because she's not going to pass it because they mark down everything you do, and she's done one thing all week? So then it's like, hey, you didn't pass level 1. Congrats.
Yeah, but you forced her back in though she didn't want to do it. Again, like it's...
But I forced her to do what? Go and do exactly what you do in our neighborhood pool? Congrats. Hey,
have
Lucy,
you paid the same amount regardless?
Yeah, it's like $70. Yeah. I'm out to $70 either way. But I won. You got to do exactly what you wanted all week, and I drove you out here an hour and 15 minutes round trip every single morning to do it. Good job. I really feel like I won in this whole deal.
I think you'll win if you force her back and she overcomes the fear.
She won't overcome it.
And she starts,
she's not going to do it.
Swimming laps
she
in the pool
is the
on her
type
back.
that she will do it when she decides. She is going to try, and that decision is not forthcoming.
Take Evie there tomorrow with her.
Maybe.
Evie will.
If they'll allow
Evie will
it,
get it done.
If they'll
The
allow
older
it,
sister.
maybe we'll go.
Let's see. Kurt Schilling's coming up in about 15 minutes. Looking forward to that. There's a lot to discuss. Rob Manfred and a number of things, reports, and great play. Plus what we saw in the College World Series. Skeens.
Yep.
I want to know, like, from Kurt's perspective, what this guy's all about. The numbers were insane at the College World Series. Insane all season. Insane.
I saw that he is noted as the best prospect since Garrett Cole and Steven Strasburg.
Well, I mean,
in terms of just pure pitching prospect for Major League Baseball.
Pitch, I don't know. Like in recent memory, the hype around this guy is different because unlike the other two, I mean, how much did we watch those guys in college, or just prospect-wise? How much did we know versus what we've seen? With him, we've watched quite a bit compared to the other two. At least I have. And that's just solely based on the College World Series and the Super Regionals that were going on.
Yeah.
And he didn't even pitch in the World Series.
Well, and how about LSU now? Women's basketball title, baseball title.
Football in 2019.
They did not have a good basketball season. I mean,
No.
if you look at that, like if you're just looking
They're
at
still
every
paying
sport.
for Will Wade.
Yeah. But other than that, Brian Kelly, rough start, but successful first season. I think everyone would say, especially beating Alabama the way they did. They're going to be good. It's a good place to be right now, other than the NCAA removing 37 of Les Miles' wins. That basically all it does is eliminates him from College Football Hall of Fame consideration.
But who knows? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
30. How many? 37 wins.
37.
Yeah, that's quite the penalty. They played
Well,
those games. They won those games.
it's a penalty.
Our stance is that those games happen. It's like Louisville.
Here's what bothers me
removing
about
a
it,
banner
though.
from the rafters.
It affects Les Miles. And
Yeah.
I do think it's very convenient that Les Miles did some things on his way out or while he was at LSU that forced some lawsuits.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, some alleged impropriety with some staffers.
Right.
And suddenly, we take this stuff seriously at LSU. Will Wade on mic, on tape, saying strong ass offer with a guy currently on the roster that we let play and win a bunch of games. We don't concern ourselves with that. But Les Miles, who's shamed now after he left, will cost that guy College Football Hall of Fame candidacy because it put him below the threshold to be considered
for consideration
with the 37 vacated wins that they put on him.
So that's more than just vacating wins. It's taking him out of what would be an honor. But
what I'm
who
saying is
knows
no
when that would
one
be.
should feel bad for LSU. I don't think many are, but absolutely no one should feel bad for LSU.
But I don't feel bad for LSU based on the way they handle things. But a lot has changed since then, since 2017. If we're not, I'm not even saying Les Miles, just with Will Wade. Like there's a lot of staff members and athletic department names that are no longer there that have changed over. You know, national championship winning coaches in football have been fired since then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just don't understand why the NCAA, and this is not just LSU, they can point to this FBI federal investigation all they want to. They can be as fast and as swift as they want to be. And they can drag their feet and, have billable hours as much as they want to. I don't, and they pick and choose when they want to do that. If they need to speed a process up because there's some type of controversy on whether or not a player should be eligible for an SEC program instead of a Pac-12 program, well, all of a sudden, miraculously, that decision's made before kickoff.
Yep.
The same offseason. And in this case, the players that are currently on the LSU recruiting roster, the incoming what are they, sophomores in high school when this is going down? At best, freshmen in high school?
I don't think that future teams should be punished. I think the coaches should be punished. But
they do have certain restrictions based on recruiting and space, right? Roster space for scholarship. Now, that's not necessarily affecting the kid. it's affecting the player for a better player that could come in and help them win for a team that, player A would be a part of. I view it that way too. It's
Will Wade should have been
mind-numbing.
fired.
Yes.
Every other school in America has handled strong allegations like this when they know that it happened, and we all heard what happened and know exactly what happened with Will Wade, and LSU defended him by employing him.
Showed up in Nashville and said, we back him. And by the way,
now
the SEC,
NCAA is so stupid and imbalanced in their legislation that it may actually benefit them for being that dumb and breaking the rules and doing that.
Maybe.
What's going on at Tennessee? They have not accepted Tennessee's self-imposed punishment. So we still don't know what the NCAA is going to do. What did Tennessee do? They fired everyone. Everyone who had any part in it, they were immediately fired, and they turned everything over to the NCAA, and that wasn't enough for the NCAA, even after Tennessee came back with more self-imposed penalties. So we'll see what the smart approach is, but again, no one should feel sorry for LSU.
Or Will Wade. But Will Wade, had the show cause or whatever, and then ends up at McNeese State. They self-imposed, a 3-game or 5-game suspension, I believe, to start this season.
And they added 10 more.
Did they add 10 or add 5 to make it 10? Either way, it's 5 or 10 more games.
I feel like it's a 15-game all told, all in
So
suspension.
he's back by the time conference play rolls around, which is why you hired Will Wade to begin with at McNeese State.
Well, you also hired him for not just this year, but
not just this year, but I'm saying to build a conference winner and the games that matter and the games he's been recruiting for, he's going to coach in. Now he hasn't paid a steep price, but he did pay a price because we're just now seeing him back in. But still, like the players and the coaches and the administrators that were involved, it's hard to point to anything right now at the university that had a connection to that, other than the name on the uniform. It sucks.
Yep.
So what has not sucked is the hype around the College World Series and everything in Omaha. An interesting discussion is being had about, is it a sport that's truly on the rise? Or is this more or less the best star power we've seen on the national scale in Omaha, involved in Wake Forest and LSU, who they were the only two teams that reached number 1 in the country this year. And you also had Florida, who was a national championship contender. You had a lot of different faces to go along with whoever we're going to see in Major League Baseball 5 years from now, 4 or 5 years from now. I think it had something to do with that, but I also think that more people tuned in based on it was. And I didn't hear anything about pace of play. I just heard good ball was played. It was entertaining. You had home runs. You had a dominant pitcher. You had an 11-inning game where LSU wouldn't have been in the situation they were last night to win the College World Series if they don't beat Wake twice and they beat them in the 11th on a homer. Like, all of that plays a factor, but they also beat Wake with a homer at was it 11 o'clock local, midnight Eastern?
Yeah.
I don't know how many people watched it, but there is more of a buzz around the product. I think that's great. I do think it has a lot to do with the guys who are going to go number 1 and number 2 overall in the Major League Baseball draft. That has now been pushed back to July. It's no longer the 1st of June. You've got Cruz and Skeens.
Dylan Cruz, really good.
Yeah, who are going to go number 1 and number 2, and they play on the same team.
So,
which way do you lean on it?
Well, look, I looked this up because I was just interested, not necessarily in these games. First off, the draw to me in watching these games was the LSU fans. That was fun. They took over Omaha in every way, and the atmosphere. When that game was a rout last night, only fun was watching how from the 4th inning on, it was a party. I mean, it was a crawfish boil.
Yeah. That's why every bowl game, they negotiate and they fight for LSU to be the SEC representative for their bowl game. If it's not the New Year's Day Bowl, it's someone else that's willing to fist fight someone over it. The games itself weren't great in the actual World Series matchup between Florida. Everything leading up to it, though, was compelling.
So the 3-game series between Florida and LSU, viewership-wise.
Okay.
Game 3 had 3.586 million people alone. Last year's championship series, forgive me, I don't even know who played in it, only got up to 1.9 million people. So almost double that. Watch this year's championship game.
And there were boat races.
But the women's Final Four in college basketball this year, it was an 87% increase from the previous year. They averaged 6.5 million people over the 3 games of the women's Final Four. So many more people watched LSU women's basketball win a national championship. Caitlin Clark was a big part of that in that national championship game, than watch the men's College World Series championship series.
Chad, over the last several days, I've been in Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Dollywood, and the Smoky Mountains. It still amazes me how gullible people are with these. You pay so much to get into a theme park, right?
Yeah, it's not cheap.
The best deal, by the way, is the Fast Pass. It's like double the amount for your ticket, but you're going to ride 5 times the amount of coasters. But I saw more like parents hand off cash and teenagers spend a ton of cash on these carnival games. That, I mean, have we not learned that the county fair it's not set up for you to win? And what you do win is worth about 97 cents for the $10 you paid to try to hit a 3 on an 11-foot goal.
Carnies will get you every time, Hutton.
Yeah.
Carnies win every single time.
Kurt Schilling won a lot. He's next with us. We're talking Major League Baseball and more.
What is your primary complaint?
When people pop their knuckles.
Primary complaint is chewing with your mouth open. Yuck.
I would say when you're getting off an airplane and people in the back try and sprint to the front, especially like late at night, like you don't have a connecting flight, just wait like everybody else. I'd say that's fine.
Small portions, big bill. Yeah, if the quality's good, it's okay. But if they're small portions and I got a big fat bill, not a thing, you know.
Sun Country Airlines canceling our flight less than 8 hours before we're supposed to leave.
I've never even heard of Sun Country Airlines in my life.
Velcro.
Velcro? Why? What about it?
The sound.
Oh, like nails on a chalkboard for you.
I'm a kindergarten teacher, and to hear that Velcro.
Time to teach them how to tie their shoes.
When they don't cross the road when no cars are driving.
They're just waiting for the light?
Yeah, like a normal person.
Yeah, you got to break the rules a little bit.
We're right from New York City. We know how to walk.
Really upset. Ben Jones is no longer with the Titans, but more importantly, I'm upset the Titans didn't draft a wide receiver in the top 2 rounds. We need receivers, guys. Come on, tighten up.
So what do you think about Will Levis? Was that a good move or a bad move?
Ooh, that's a tough call. Time will tell. But I think we needed a receiver more.
Smack their gum. Chew with their mouth open and smack their gum.
Okay.
That with chips and everything else, yeah. Liars.
Liars. Okay. Has anyone lied to you recently?
No.
Have you lied?
Always.
One of the biggest pet peeves is not knowing your manners. Like, not having respect or thank you, sir, ma'am.
My biggest pet peeve is when you don't push your chair in after you leave a table. That's my biggest pet peeve. Really is.
So like when people want to speak to you and they're like you to me, but they start walking out of the other room into different rooms and they keep talking like, I am supposed to understand. I can't hardly understand people when their back is turned to me and when they're not talking right at me. So when you're getting into different rooms and you keep talking like, yeah, blah, 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 it must be my dog talking to me.
There's a crane over every building. There's a truck.
There's a hole, something. Yeah. So let's get the streets fixed and get those things done. Time's wasted. Let's go.
A dirty house.
Dirty house. Like, are you a shoes off at the front door kind of guy?
Off front, yes, ma'am.
I hate it when centre backs don't bat the odd one. Do you know,
What?
when the centre backs go up to try and catch the ball all the time, they should bat the odd one.
You know, siblings are pet peeves, you know, to be honest with you. You know, just looking at him, he's a pet peeve.
I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I like to get along with others. I kind of leave people in their place. When people don't follow the social construct, it really upsets me. Example, when you stand up on an airplane, right when it lands, and then try to push past people down the line, you know what orders you're supposed to go in. That's the part of the social contract. When you're grocery shopping and you have your cart and you don't take it back to the cart delivery spot, but you just leave it right there beside the parking spot, taking up someone else's spot, violating the social contract. Do what you're supposed to. Yeah, do your civic duty. Follow through with what your parents told you to do.
Hot Mike with Hunter Withrow rolls on across the OutKick network. One of our favorite discussions whenever we have the opportunity. It's happening right now. Kurt Schilling joins us, talking baseball, all things on the diamond. Kurt, good to see you, man. Host of the Kurt Schilling Baseball Show.
What's up, guys?
Available today and Friday each and every week.
Always look forward to this, guys. Always look forward to it.
Same here. Did you watch much of the College World Series? Specifically, Chad and I brought you up early in the show. We wanted to get your take on Skeens, the ace for LSU, and if the hype is warranted based on your trained eye.
Well, yes.
Okay.
Yes and no. And I say that for this reason. There was a tweet that went out about Skeens taking the ball on 3 days rest on 120 pitches. And I answered the question, but I answered it. I wasn't sure if they wanted to give him the ball and he didn't want it, which I don't think was the case, or they wanted to give him the ball and they were contemplating doing it. My response was 3 days rest, 120 pitches. He's 20 years old. Take the effing ball.
Yeah.
But again, I don't believe he refused to take the ball. I just don't think they gave it to him. But I'm kicking down the door in my coach's office for the ball in that game. But also, don't go to sleep on Hurd, obviously, because he turned in a monumental performance. Especially in a game like that, when you give up runs early, if you don't immediately settle, it gets away from you. It didn't get away from them. LSU's offense decided that they were just going to end things. And in addition to drinking close to 50,000 shots, their fan base was phenomenal.
Do we think they actually drank 50,000 or
Absolutely.
just paid?
I roomed and played with Ben McDonald, who went to LSU.
Oh,
Yeah. So for a guy that taught me how to gator wrestle in big white underwear, I would never put anything past LSU fans. I think it might be, if you were to sit back and look at the last 50 years, maybe rank the top 10 college baseball teams in history for talent, they have to be in the conversation.
Going back to Skeens briefly, is it as much about the control as anything else?
It's all about the control. Right. The control is everything. The control is usually and I think I've said this on the show before. There's two things. There's control and there's command. Control is the ability to throw strikes. Pretty much everybody in the big leagues has control. Command is the ability to manipulate the ball inside the strike zone in 4 and 6 inch increments. That's command. That's Maddox, right?
Yes.
He's going in with, in my opinion, supreme control that will translate into supreme command. And with that arm, if he gets rid of the mustache, then I think the sky's the limit.
Yeah. Well, that entire LSU team, it's like the anti-New York Yankees policy of clean shaven. Their policy is you have to have a Fu Manchu.
Yeah, facial hair exchange.
I think it was a team-wide effort to make sure no one got drafted by the Yankees.
No doubt.
But, hey, hats off to them. An amazing run, and Florida as well. But I kind of didn't like to see the last two games be 37-7 in run differential. But, hats off to him. What a great accomplishment.
So, Kurt, Rob Manfred, who needed the players' testimony to roll over on their bosses, their manager, their front office with the Astros cheating scandal, offered them immunity to tell everything about what was going on. And now 5 years later comes back in an interview and says, looking back, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I didn't take suspensions off the table completely for the players. Part of me likes the honesty, and the retrospect of it all with Manfred. The other part of me thinks, why are you dragging up that old wound now, 5 years later?
Yeah. I'm gonna go on record right now. And again, another thing, I think I've said it on the show. I was a player rep for almost 10 years. I was the player rep during the 1994 lockout when Rob was the assistant to Bud Selig. I love Rob Manfred. I've always loved Rob. He's always been an honest, straight shooter. People don't understand or appreciate what he has to do with the owners. It's like herding cats in that room. I've always felt that he was looking out for the best interest of baseball, even though some of the things he does I disagree with and question. But I don't know why he brought that up. I'm so paranoid now because of the media that I always think when somebody's creating a story they don't need to create, I need to look where the story really is. And I don't know that that's the case in baseball, but I don't know that it was this guy. I think very clearly he wouldn't have gotten the cooperation he got if he hadn't given immunity. And here's the thing. You don't need to get to worry about punishment. Those guys are those rings, that series will forever be, in many ways like the Bonds and A-Rod legacy. It'll never be a legacy thing because there will always be the but. And, as athletes, I know for me, the one thing I can't buy that I have is a legacy. And when I die, that legacy will pass on to my kids as a professional athlete. That's a big deal to me. And I think when you look at the guys that aren't in the Hall of Fame, I think they would tell you that is the one thing they'll never be able to get. And you're talking about the greatest pitcher and hitter of my generation, almost for the most part. Their legacies will never be what they could have been. And I think that has to be painful.
So much of baseball to me is a feeling. You can talk about sappy speeches from James Earl Jones and Field of Dreams or whatever your favorite baseball movie or moment is with your dad or all of that. But baseball in its best form is at its purest form, and it feels pure, and it feels very American. And we all love America. I felt that way watching Braves-Reds all weekend. I am a Braves fan. And they won 2 out of the 3 games. They were all one-run games. But, Kurt, there was something about those crowds in Cincinnati and being fed a bunch of you-know-what for the last decade and an owner who a year ago was mocking them. And then watching this young team come of age and a superstar in Ellie De La Cruz hitting for the cycle for the first time since Eric Davis did it in 1988. And I felt so good about the game of baseball watching that series.
There are times, and that's one of the beauties of baseball in and of itself. With everybody plays 162 games, so there's 8 to 10 games every single day for 9 months. So literally every day you see something you've never seen before. And when you're talking about a sport that's over a century old, that's a luxury. Ellie De La Cruz, I mean, come on, he just turned 13 years old. He's got 50 hits in the first 2 weeks of the season. He is the young guy, and I just blew mind cramped on the young shortstop for Pittsburgh that's hurt and out. The kid at 6'5", 6'6". These are freaking insanely unique people. De La Cruz is the first player I think I've thought to myself, there's a potential Mike Trout in bringing other weapons to the plate. Trout has always been very fast, but this kid is, I hate to say it, Ohtani fast. He's a 6'5" infielder. You remember when Cal Ripken was a 6'4" shortstop, he was an anomaly. And these guys are starting to come into the big leagues, and he looks like he's having a whole lot of fun, which is always fun to watch. But you're right, Cincinnati has gotten screwed the way Kansas City and Oakland are being screwed. The way Baltimore was screwed by the Angelo's father for a decade. And baseball in great baseball towns got ruined. Cincinnati is a phenomenal baseball town. I don't know if you guys remember, but that used to be opening day every year for Major League Baseball was in Cincinnati.
Yep.
And it was right. It was in your, and you said it's pure. The one thing that I think that you say, and I think a lot of times you guys say it without realizing it, is unlike all of the other sports, for the most part, all of us have baseball in our lives as something we did. Not everybody played hockey, right? Not everybody played football or basketball, but we all played baseball. And we did it up into, little league, into high school or whatever. But we all have those. It's what gives the 600-pound overweight nacho eating fan in right field who played JV baseball when he was 11. In his mind, he can scream at the left fielder for not catching a ball because, oh my God, how hard is that? It's a sport everybody in the stands can usually relate to, and that makes it different. And I think it is American sport. Yes, listen, popularity-wise, I think the NFL is off the charts. But if you're going to define America by sport, it's baseball, hands down.
Kurt Schilling with us here on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. Bringing up De La Cruz, we had a topic last week, Kurt, about Big League Advantage, BLA. It's a firm that raises money, like a $27 million fund. They hand out cash in advance payments across the globe, but really it's like Dominican Republic. They say they have 100 or so American baseball players as well. Elly De La Cruz is one of these, and they own in forever like 8% of the contract if he hits it big for giving him a certain amount of money up front as he's developing. Was this prevalent in your era?
Oh, God, no.
No.
This didn't exist in any capacity. When it did, when I played, it was cheating, right?
Yeah.
You had agents going to players and giving them money in college for two reasons. Number one, to tie the player to them. So you're never going to leave me because I'll throw you under the bus and because they realized what the potential was. But no, this is a completely new, and I got to tell you, pretty genius business scheme, right?
Yeah.
You have to have the people that can assess talent. But this is a win-win for these people because, here's the other thing about capitalism that I love. They're taking all the risk. Right? They're putting money into a kid's hands who may never play a day in the big leagues, who might get hurt and never play again. But if you look at the way they're doing it, they only need they need to hit once with the $300, $400, $500 million contracts going out now. They need to hit once. 10% of 300 million is 30 million. 8% is about 25 million.
Yeah.
You're still doing all right. And so I think it's genius. I think there's definitely a pool of players to take advantage of in Latin America, because I don't think people understand how dirt poor and third world the islands are, and the Dominican Republic is, Mexico as well. I mean, these kids but it's also why they're coming here. The only thing that worries me is getting these kids money before they get here, because the challenge is getting off the island, right, and getting to the United States and getting into professional baseball. And I think, where there's money and there's control, there's going to be power and corruption. And I just hope Major League Baseball and the Players Association can stay on top of how that runs.
Man,
genius idea.
Yeah, I mean, so what their first fund was 2016, 2017. For those that are watching or listening that don't know, they gave $350,000 to 77 players. The whole gimmick here, I'll call it a gimmick, is if you don't hit it big, if you don't make it to the majors, you owe them nothing. But you get $350,000 in cash. But if you do hit, they own 8% of your contract. Fernando Tatis Jr. owes them $27 million based on the contract that he signed.
Right.
And De La Cruz is on his way to doing something like this too. And I bring it up because, and we brought it up, it's now in college football with name, image, likeness, and transfer portal. They have a guy now playing for the Eagles that was playing at Georgia last year that also is a part of this fund and got the money up front. I'm just curious where all this came about compared to when it was looked at and frowned upon.
I don't know if you guys have seen Nick Saban talking about this.
Yes.
But he's clearly, and I agree with him. Listen, college football, I'm going to guess, is on the revenue perspective, is bigger than the NFL. Or it's got to be close. It's billions and billions of dollars. And that money is solely generated by these athletes, period. They should be getting compensated for it in many, many ways.
It's number two, but only because of the TV contracts.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. But if you look at, guys were paying athletes well before it was legal. right?
Yes.
And I think if you want to compare it to society, if you look at the drug problem in Seattle and Portland on the West Coast, prior to making drugs legal, it didn't soften the problem. It exacerbated it. So in my mind, this didn't do anything other than make the cheaters not cheaters anymore, and opened up the wallets and the colleges. I mean, listen, I don't know how many people know. Harvard has like a multi-billion-dollar endowment. Yale is the same way. A lot of the Ivy League schools. What's to stop them from dropping $150 million into a sports program like their football team?
Yeah, I know.
And nothing. So it's going to be. I think it's going to create a lot of haves and have-nots. I mean, you saw, what was it? Was it Texas A&M that got very aggressive with it, and then you saw the coaches going berserk.
Yep.
Over it, but I don't. Here's the thing, and I think Nick Saban had it right. The problem is that these athletes are not being held to their word anymore. You can commit to a school and go to the portal 4 straight years. I don't know the rules through the portal, but the portal changes everything. And I think that Coach Saban, one of the things that you preach on and teach is loyalty and commitment. Now, hey, listen, I don't get my playing time in Alabama. All right, I'm going to go to Georgia.
Kurt, it's always.
I don't know if that's healthy.
Always a great conversation with you. We look forward to the podcast today and Friday, and
good stuff.
We'll catch up soon. And at some point, we'll talk with Tanya again. All right.
I'm going to have Clemens pretty soon.
All right. Awesome.
Johnny Damon, maybe Pete Rose. So some great stuff coming up.
Thanks, Kurt.
Kurt Schilling with us on Hot Mic.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader.
I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life.
ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted and how he did it.
He bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Bold taste of a Southern legend.
Thanks to Kurt Schilling and John McClain for joining the show today. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow rolls on across the OutKick network. You can find us on social or in the chat on YouTube. Of course, that's live. You can join us on demand there. All the shows available, searching out OutKick. And hope you'll subscribe while you're there. You can also find us at OutKick.com. Chad, Ryan Seacrest is going to be the new Pat Sajak of Wheel of Fortune. Did I see this? Correct?
What job has Ryan Seacrest not held in entertainment?
The guy,
that man has done everything. He works.
He has been named to replace Pat Sajak on Wheel of Fortune. I think it's a home run decision, personally. Is he still doing everything else? I'm not sure. Is he still doing Idol and all that?
I don't know. I mean, he's held so many different jobs.
His schedule is insane.
It really is.
Because he has like a top 40 countdown syndicated show. I think he still does his other show as well, plus anything else he was doing on the red carpet and everything else.
It's a great. This I was looking at like a sports coaching hire for a college. This is the home run hire. I mean, if you're Wheel of Fortune and you land Ryan Seacrest, this is Alabama landing Nick Saban and getting him to leave the Miami Dolphins, right? Home run. It was also an opportunity to go a little bit outside the box and either give someone else a shot that no one was thinking about or do something different. But look, you can't quibble over Ryan Seacrest being the hire.
No.
And replacing Pat Sajak.
Now, the show he did leave, I do know this, was the Ryan and Kelly. He left that show. But he's still doing the
he took over for Regis.
Yes, but he's no longer doing that. But that's the only thing I know that he's thrown the towel in on, based on the schedule, because he's still doing the New Year's Eve show. He's got the podcast, he's got the radio show.
Remember
he's
when
producing many things too.
I forget what he was hosting, but he did something. I feel like during COVID, either right before or right after, where he just looked really bad and sounded really bad.
He looked like all of us.
Yeah, he looked like us during Super Bowl week. But no, he had to basically make a statement. Like, it was so awful.
Oh, like I'm okay?
Yeah, he's like, I was really exhausted. Like, I went on TV and I shouldn't have. But he was speaking in a way, it sounded like he had a stroke before he went on air at one point. And he just looked off. And I think he had to admit, I'm working too much and probably shouldn't have done this show.
What is he getting paid?
I think he was doing like a Disney sing-along or something on ABC.
Sajak worked 4 days a month over 9 months a year. So this is definitely within the realm of Seacrest's schedule. Let's say that, okay? Like, the guy's not going to be overworked. He's just fitting this into some openings. 36 days of his year. That's at least the Sajak calendar. They'll make it work. We discussed this, Hutton, when this job came open. This is one of the best gigs. So good.
In all of entertainment.
Over
if you
$1 million
can
an
get
episode.
Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune or Price is Right, a daily, successful, long-time running game show, and you can be the host, it is terrific work. It's easy.
But in this
and
case,
it pays so well.
There's no tryout. There's no debate. They just went ahead and named him, unlike what we saw with Price is Right or with Jeopardy, right?
I think this one is way easier than like Jeopardy host.
Oh, and
wouldn't you say?
Here's the other key in
terms of responsibility.
Why it's a home run. Vanna White's staying on with him. That's the other thing. It's going to crush, just like the other. I
thought there was a chance Vanna White would get the gig. She may have not wanted it. She may want to keep doing her same role.
She'll get a raise.
Yeah, she's doing fine. I don't feel bad for Vanna White.
No.
I want to state that up front.
Pat Sajak was making around $15 million a year, according to reports.
$15 million a year to work 4 days a month.
Yeah. Now the Google would tell you that Vanna White's making around $10 million a year now.
That's great. I'm telling you.
I know.
We often overlook it. We went through best jobs in all of entertainment, sports or entertainment. Pat Sajak, Vanna White, Alex Trebek, R.I.P. Those jobs. Bob Barker, who is still alive, we found out last week.
99
years old. Best gigs in entertainment. And those hosts set it up for everyone else. And now when you get that job, man, it's good work. And very profitable.
Chad, you were asking about slam ball recently, I think.
Was I?
You brought slam ball up. It's like some non-football programming, I think.
It sounds
ESPN.
like something I'd bring up.
It's back on a 2-year media deal. Is this something you'll be watching? Because it sounds like something you at least tried to watch prior. It's like me with the Ice Cube 3-on-3 basketball league. I'm not
By
watching
the way, that
anymore,
is still. I happened to be channel surfing this weekend.
Slam ball is your jam, I feel like.
And the Big Three was on CBS on Saturday or Sunday. They had a Big Three.
Tough to watch.
Some games. Very difficult to watch. Slam ball back in the day was revolutionary. I mean, the footage that we're watching right now, terrific. Not going to be rushing to watch too much slam ball now. I do like, though, that the season is like 28 days, right? I mean, this is straight made-for-TV product. And they said, it's ESPN saying, what's our slowest time of the year for live sports ratings? And it is like July 18th to August 15th. And the dates are a little bit, but
You're
it's right around there. And they're like, our season will run in the dates in the window that is the slowest.
All-Star break until training camp.
All-Star break until the NFL and college football starts back.
Preseason, yeah.
That is the worst window for live sports viewing. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to bring back slam ball at that time.
This sounds crazy, but I've often said, like, the All-Star weekend for the NBA lacks one thing, and it's the mascot dunk competition. I loved that as a kid.
Yeah.
Why not bring that and just implement this into slam ball?
Here's the other thing I'd bring back.
Why not just have the mascots do this?
Hear me out on this. Instead of slam ball, and I'm crazy about this now because of the recent documentary and another one coming to Netflix. Bring back American Gladiators.
Well, don't they? Well,
it came back in like the late aughts.
I thought they tried.
I want to say on NBC for a time, and that was part of it. They licensed it to NBC. But I mean, if you could bring back the Eliminator, I think was the game, the end of it, right?
I remember
the obstacle course.
Yes.
They have American Ninja Warrior, which is kind of Gladiators like now, but Gladiators where it was the average Joe against the stud athlete in these competitions.
Glacier.
Laser, Blazer, Blade, Blazer, Nitro, Ice was the blonde woman.
Was it Ice?
Gemini,
yeah.
I mean, obviously those people are way too old now to do it.
Bring those back. Bring them back.
Great documentary that was on a 30 for 30. There's the new one coming to Netflix. That's like a behind-the-scenes American Gladiator story. I'd rather watch that than slam ball during these slow months. Bring back an ice-like character. That's what I want to see.
American Gladiators was legit. I haven't thought about them in a long time, though, the show.
Tower. I believe the dude in the back's name was Tower, was one of them. Malibu.
What was the guy? Yeah, I mean,
there's Laser. I can see Laser. Ice was very popular.
There will be there's some issue with it. Someone owns the rights
Gemini's
to it.
back left.
That's why ESPN can't do it, Chad. Someone owns the rights to it.
The guy who has the rights to it is trying like crazy to sell it off. Like he's trying to license it to anyone who will air it. So it's not because of a lack of availability. Like this dude, who is basically a grifter, you find out in the documentary, he badly wants someone to air this so he can make more money off of it.
What an unbelievable parlay that was placed prior to the start of the Major League Baseball season. There is someone who bet $1, and he has selected all of the divisional winners for the Major League Baseball season. Currently, all 6 of the teams he has selected are in first place in their division. The payout on $1.62 is $1.19 million. That's the potential payout if he hits on this parlay. Right now, the cash out price, if he wants to just cash out on $1.62, is $8,097.73. Chad, at what point do you hit the cash out button?
2 weeks ago? Quickly, I would take that cash out option.
So of the
instead
teams,
of sweating out the rest of the year.
He has the Braves winning the East,
which
the
was they
National
would have
League.
been the favorites or close to
And
it.
they were.
I think the Mets may have actually been.
Diamondbacks plus 4,000.
That's a big
in
one.
the West.
The Reds had to be a huge.
Twins. So Twins at plus 225, Rays at plus 375, Rangers at plus 900, and the Reds at plus 6,000. He's hitting on all of them right now.
How awful is the AL Central? The Twins are like a game over 500.
Well,
And
the bet
first,
would be
the NL
like,
Central's not much better.
how much further will this go up based on the timetable of how long you think these teams remain where they are?
I mean, I would, the moment it got into position, like in June, where like even one team's in second or a game
when the
out,
race is actually being discussed.
Hutton, I would have cashed out when it was like $2,000 was the cash out. I would not have made it this far. This man has made it to this point. I would have cashed out 3 weeks ago.
I laughed when I saw this because I thought of you because you had the 13-cent parlay once a couple
That's
years
right.
ago.
Yeah.
I think you hit on it and you ended up winning like 82 cents or
The
something.
biggest bet I've ever won was Mickelson winning the PGA Championship.
You crushed that.
Which was like a $5 bet that paid well.
But you didn't cash out that weekend.
No.
You waited.
I put $50
This guy's got
into my account at the time.
$1.62 on this.
And I'm very quickly almost out of those $50 just on some really bad $5 bets. I was telling our guy Dylan, he's the parlay master.
Yeah, Dylan Taylor's got it going, man.
I need a parlay. I need like a good, solid $1 parlay a day of 5 or 6 games, whatever.
The $1.62 parlay is what we should call it.
If I can hit on one of those parlays over the next week, that would be good. 1 out of 7. That's what I need to hit. 1 out of 7 of those parlays that Dylan supplies for us, I'll be in business.
Chad, are the poll results enough to have you taking Lucy to swim class tomorrow?
I'm going to consult the family when I get home. I'm going to state my case again.
Okay.
And I will talk to my daughter and find out where her head's at right now about going back. And if she's got a somewhat positive attitude about trying, then I will go back. If she's adamant, I'm not going to do anything, I'm scared, whatever, probably not going to make that long round trip back to these, but I will have an update on tomorrow's show, Hutton. That I guarantee.
Prediction.
One way or the other, if I don't go or if I go, I'll have an update.
There's at least one more trip being made by Chad Withrow on behalf of Lucy Withrow for swim lessons.
But again,
one more.
Most people are saying, you got to teach the lesson and doing this. And the only person being taught a lesson is me. Like, I'm the one that's just going to sit
spend the
there
$70.
While all these little toddlers swim around the pool like Michael Phelps.
Well, what if it's not?
And my daughter sits on the steps and plays with a rubber duck.
But does she still have to do the back float thing, or can she just do the next thing?
The next thing she won't do. We get to a certain point and she won't do anything. So it's everything after that. Here's what she'll do. The first day she floated on her stomach and did a good job. She kicked. She did go on her back one time and kick a little bit today, and she'll go underwater. On her own, she'll blow bubbles.
One more, and
she'll put her head completely underwater.
Just consider this as part of the family discussion. Ask Evie if she'll go with you.
She also claims today that she doesn't know what she's being told to do. We keep asking why she's so scared. She says, I don't know what she's saying, talking about the teacher.
Very smart. Very
she's not dumb,
coherent
that's for sure.
response.
She's definitely not dumb.
She's learned well from her
Am
older
I
sister.
dumb if I go back? That's
No.
That's my next poll question for our audience.
One more.
Am I dumb by going back?
Now, if we ask this tomorrow and it's the same result, then yes, you'd be done for going back Thursday.
I think it's very easy for people just to click yes on that answer. Yeah, you need to go back. Teach that little girl a lesson. You're the boss. Make her learn. And I'm telling you, it ain't happening. Like, she's not going to learn this go-around. She's unwilling to learn.
I just want to know if I'm correct in the fathers that will come up and thank you for removing her.
I don't even know
30
that. I
minutes
mean,
in.
we slinked away in a manner that I don't even know that they
Well,
knew,
you asked if
they
it,
knew
if,
we
if
left.
it would be like insulting or whatever. I'm like, no, they would actually. I think they'll throw a parade for you tomorrow around the pool for not ruining their day.
I get so
today.
mad. This is one that I'm not good at handling because I get so frustrated and mad. I just want to leave immediately.
Dan Dockich and Clay Travis join us tomorrow. I hope you will as well. 3 o'clock Eastern for Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network.